becoming the first nation to give in to pressure from an international cabal determined to decriminalize sex with children across the world. This means federal law in France has no legal age of consent, and adults who have sex with children of any age will not be prosecuted for rape if the child victim is unable to prove violence, threat, duress, or even surprise. Is it any coincidence that Macron is another WEF young global leader who just so happened to be groomed by a much older woman while he was an underage boy at school? Russian President Vladimir Putin warned us years ago. This is the guy. Oh, Putin is a monster, right? He's trying to protect his people from the shit that's going down in Ukraine that's doing this too. The global elite plan to normalize pedophilia in the West. According to Putin, the global elite engage in Satan worship. Do as thou wilt is their motto, and it appears to be a correct motto for them. The attempt to normalize pedophilia has been playing out before our very eyes for years, and who better go desensitize the masses than the mainstream media and their favorite stars? Oprah, who we talked about last week and indicated she may be under arrest imminently, and her stable of pedophile friends have been taking every opportunity to quietly undermine traditional family values for years. And according to Bill Maher, he's a Democrat. He's a liberal. But he said a relationship between a 30-something and a 12-year-old is totally fine, and society should stop being so uptight. Well, you get the gist of this story. We're at the bottom of the hour now, but the bottom line is the elite are not going to stop at age of consent laws. They're now laying the groundwork to take away the natural right of parents to raise their own children and protect them from this kind of monstrosity. We will continue to follow this story for you. It is huge. Now, with that being said, it's time to tell you who is coming on the program today, Penny.
And away we go with a shot of espresso. Good day, and welcome to the Awake Nation guest interview with guests who defy the mainstream narrative. Grab a cup of coffee while our guests brew the news for you. The Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. The Mockingbird Media controls the narrative. We help you determine what is real and what is not.
Global conspiracy with key players at the highest levels of power reaches into the lives of every man, woman, and child on this planet.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of government, I will fear no Satans. Tuesday, January 23, 2024, our guests are Christi Tasker. Christi Tasker is an award-winning technologist, international business consultant, designer, manufacturer, artisan. She designs and sells fashion, jewelry, home decor, and fabrics. Christi is also an investigative journalist based in Miami who travels globally to discover truth. She's an investigative journalist for the Awake Nation. You can find her at ChristiTasker.com, PSSRocks.com, PatriotsPerspective.com, and ChristiTaskerForMiami.com. Our next guest is Gary Wayne, author of The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, How Secret Societies and the Descendants of Giants Plan to Enslave Mankind. It details the role of modern-day Nephilim in Satan's plan to install the Antichrist at the end of days. Our next guest is Brent Thomas. Brent is the host of Paranormal Portal on TFR Live. You can find Brent on YouTube at Paranormal Portal and on iHeartRadio. His podcast is available all over. And closing out the final hour of the Wake Nation is Gunnar Alan Lindbloom. He is the author of To Be a King. His mother was a Toko of the Detroit Toko crime family. In Gunnar's late teens and early 20s, he was known as an associate or street enforcer for the family. He completed a 13-year stint behind bars and is now a writer and a speaker. Don't forget to subscribe to The Dark Outpost at darkoutpost.tv. There you will find exclusive content, interviews, documentaries, and intel not found anywhere else. Watch us live on Rumble at the David Zublick channel or at theawakenation.com. Falling down the rabbit hole can hurt. Ow, 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 ow. Ow. That's gonna hurt. We will provide the researchers and whistleblowers. Your mission is to discern the truth from the MSN lies. And now for the interview portion of the Awake Nation. And awake we go with a shot of espresso. It's showtime.
And welcome back to the Awake Nation, Truth of the Shot of Espresso. I didn't know if you had an opening for Christi or not.
We do. It's for Banana Republic News, but she's actually coming on as Christi Tasker right now.
Just coming on at Christi. She's not just Christi Tasker. She's
Well,
fantastic.
she's not just Christi Tasker. She's the fabulous Christi Tasker.
She's looking
It's
fantastic.
Banana Republic News.
That's pretty,
your time, so
that's
All
pretty funny. That's pretty funny, Penny. But it's okay. We're gonna have a lot more time in the future, I'm sure.
Good.
So I told Penny David that she can call me when she has cancellations, because there's so much to talk about here in the Banana
You are
Republic.
welcome. You are welcome.
yes, you
anytime.
are investigative. I saw your wiki thingy the other day, and that made me so happy.
Oh, really? Did you see my Wikipedia?
I
you-
did.
you
Did
must have done
Wikipedia finally put my Wikipedia up, or are they still
Well,
banning
it's
me?
like it says wiki. It's not Wikipedia, but you had mentioned that you were like an executive, that you were an investigative journalist for the Awake Nation. You can expound on that.
Good. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
I absolutely love telling people. Actually, it's probably Wikitia.
That's what it is. Wikipedia.
Because
It's a wiki.
Wikipedia, it's very interesting. When I started going against the politicians who have done absolutely nothing except for gone to jail, okay, their Wikipedias would stay up, but they took my Wikipedia down. And I'm an award-winning journalist. I'm an award-winning interior designer. I'm an award-winning technologist. But even Cox Communications, I'm like, even so supposedly, like, if you're award-winning by all these awards that like are on Wikipedia, they're supposed to keep you on there, but they won't let me on there, Penny.
Or worse, what they do is they take and they see, since anyone can edit it, these things, they can like trash your Wikipedia. They can change things. They can say she's a far right wing,
Right.
conspiracy.
They can't do that for sure. But you know what? You know what was really interesting, David, is that when I had a Wikipedia, like, you can't really hire a Wikipedia editor, so you can only reach out to people that are editing. They were shocked to find out that my Wikipedia was removed. So that was an eye opener for a lot of Wikipedia people who are normally like far left. So I always say to people, there is a way to get people back on our side. Matter of fact, I attended a talk last night by the Leadership Institute here in Miami, and that's exactly what we were talking about. It's like, hey, stay away from the big abortion topic. And if the far left brings it up, just say, listen, I don't really care that much about abortion. I just don't want to pay for it. And they usually say, oh, I don't pay for it. I don't pay for it, because they don't even realize they are paying for it. Okay. So it's like, so if we can just kind of stay away from that, because I think I'll call them the infiltrators of the conservatives,
right,
want us to talk about that. That's all they want us to talk about, because that's the big divide.
Christy, if you want to start a show called Just Christi Tasker, I'll help produce it.
Let's see, Penny. I have this coming up. I know. I was thinking today I'm going to tell people like what they need to follow, because there are so many bombs that I need to drop, and people are going to love it. And we'll go through a little bit of it here and there. So I'm going to bring it up on the screen so people can see like what there is for you to follow, because I do have Banana Republic News. And let me tell you, the Banana Republic News, I published Banana Republic News, sent the link out to Steve Stern, Roger Stone, and several others. And then about 4 days later, President Trump said, "This sounds like Banana Republic news."
Ooh.
So I was like,
should have played your Banana Republic News intro.
He's watching.
no, I actually need to give that to you, Penny, and the updated logo. So I'll do that for sure, because
Okay.
I'll get the clip, because I was like, did he just say this sounds like Banana Republic News? So I really do have bananarepublicnews.com. It is a God-given domain that I pay $10 for. Okay, I never pay a lot for my domains because I'm creative and I come up with things. So we do have Banana Republic News, David. I brought it. I think I've brought it up on the screen. Have I? Did I? Yes.
I'll bring it in.
I've got, bring it. Yeah, there you go.
I want to make sure that we're going to share one of my stories from Banana Republic News, because it is insane.
The Banana Republic News intro.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, Penny. It's perfectly okay. Okay. First of all, I thought our audience would think this is absolutely funny. We had wild rides in the Amazon. We had a chase down I-95 through Miami.
What was that about?
This is hilarious. So this is an Amazon. Somebody stole an Amazon van.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just a typical day in Florida driving.
David, it literally is. Okay, wait. Then it gets better. Okay. So everybody, if you can go on and just subscribe to the newsletter up here on Banana Republic News, you'll get free notices and everything for this. So I have a lot coming up with various, even other politicians and police officers that are sick and tired of going through the same thing every day. So it's going to get very, very interesting. Let's put it that way. I have so much to put out, all the way from Miami housewives to connected to judges. I mean, it's like, even when I'm sitting here, like listening to them blow the whistle, I'm going, are you telling me this person's connected with it? Like, we're going back in the same circles, right? They're committing homestead fraud and everything, but that's coming up. So you guys will see that next week, because this one's enough for this week. So we had a Miami school board vice chair was bailed out of jail after doing the jailhouse rock for less than 24 hours. We had Dr. Luby Navarro, who is actually not really a doctor. She was just an honorary doctor from a hole-in-the-wall school here in South Florida, who gave her an honorary doctorate, went shopping on Miami tax dollars, spending more than $100,000 using school board credit cards.
Oh.
But strangely enough, all the mask lovers were not only that,
I remember this story.
Yeah, she's a total rhino. She was running rampant with silicone pregnancy bellies she purchased, and tracking her ex-boyfriend, and conveniently hiring the best lawyers in Miami, because she is also a lobbyist for a hospital system. Imagine that. Okay, you can't even make this up. Okay, it's just going to get even worse, Penny. Just wait. Okay, so mask lovers here are celebrating as Luby Navarro, a former Miami-Dade board member and lobbyist for the South Florida Hospital District, had been arrested. Navarro faces charges in this Banana Republic story like it's a season 2 of The Stranger. Okay, so everybody watch season 2 of The Stranger on Netflix if you still have your Netflix account. Okay, because you can't even make this up. I'm pretty sure Luby must have watched that show and then repeated it. And I'm not joking. Authorities said she used district-issued credit cards to rack up more than $100,000 in personal purchases, including everything from refrigerators to a trip to Disney World to Las Vegas and the Dominican Republic. That's not all, though. Honorary Dr. Navarro used the Miami-Dade credit cards to create her version of The Stranger, as she purchased the 2 silicone and cotton pregnancy bellies to make her ex-boyfriend think she was pregnant. That's what happens in The Stranger, by the way. But it's actually a good series. She evidently wanted to keep track of him too, because investigators not found but 1, but 2 Apple AirTags as she duct taped them to his car. Okay. So Navarro had pretty good taste, I'd say, being a person who's lived in Las Vegas. Evidently, she really wanted to keep her family and especially her boyfriend happy because she took him to Sin City to stay in the Wynn Las Vegas, which is one of the nicest hotels in Las Vegas, owned by Steve Wynn. It was one of his last hotels. Well, there's Encore was the last. She was racking up more in my former Sin City of lost wages. I call it lost wages, by the way.
Yeah.
So you have to follow PS This Rocks to see those blogs for travel. I try to divide everything, that's the travel blog. But guess what? She took her mother to my other favorite place, the República Dominica. So Dominican Republic on vacation. So she took her mom on a pretty cheap vacation, took her boyfriend to Las Vegas, kept him at the Wynn. So I'm pretty sure, there's no telling what happened at the Wynn. I've heard some crazy stories there. So Luby actually has come from Havana, Cuba. So, I'm just saying, listen, my Cuban friends would even agree, like, we've got to get some actual real patriots in office here because we really do have third world banana republic style leadership here, all the way from our mayors on down. I mean, it's actually sickening when you start to look at it. And I'm even sometimes hoping like surely they didn't just come over from Cuba and they got elected here. No, they did. It's the truth. So, as we well know, there are CIA operations that have gone on from the brigades, the 2506 brigade, the Bay of Pigs. We now know that's a CIA operation. And listen, the people involved didn't know it at the time, but conveniently, we're propping up the same people that actually came from third world countries. So why was Newbie arrested? She was arrested because she spent... Okay, so I'm saying this because people need to watch out for this. Every single one of us here, this is maybe happening in Miami, but you need to go to your school board. She kept asking for increases in her school board credit card, and somebody kept giving them to her month after month after month, to the point where her $6,000 monthly...
Without any receipts, without asking her to account for what she's purchasing?
That is, or auditing the receipts, David. What about like the first time you ask for something in January, by December, your account hasn't been audited to look at like what you're actually purchasing?
Yeah.
So you know what? Listen, I don't blame her as much as I blame whoever was in the process of approving the upwards of the credit card bills. So I want that person fired. Okay. So I'm waiting to see, they're all pointing fingers at each other like, oh, it's her fault. No, it's his fault. Oh, well, we need a general auditor for that. Oh, we didn't notice. Listen, if you're on the school board, you have every right to look at each other's credit card bills, okay? And start to ask each other questions if it needs to be asked in public. That's what I expect out of my school board member. Luby made numerous purchases totaling over $100,000. And not only that, but her combined lobbying salaries and the school board, she made over $266,000 in 2022. So this is not a person who was like needy or needed to feed her kid or was buying groceries. No, she was bailed out on $2 million bond on January the 11th and is currently under house arrest. So we are paying for her to be under house arrest. I fully expect her to come out and say, oh, look what they did to Trump. So here's her arrest record here. So I want everybody to go through and read it. It's 92 pages. It literally reads like a novel.
92 pages.
Yeah, it reads like a novel, Penny. I mean, so you can make this larger. You can share it. You can make it full screen so that you can read it a little easier. So it basically will read like this. Okay. So you can make it larger. She got accused of organized scheme to defraud for more than $50,000, grand theft, organized fraud to scheme and defraud for $20,000 or less, grand theft in the third degree, and much more. I mean, the story.
Who turned her in?
Well, the person who was reviewing her credit cards actually turned her in. But he should have caught that much sooner. Listen, I mean, we all have to pay attention here. If you're hired in the local government at all as an employee, or if you're elected as an official, you have to look at things. You cannot just be like, oh, well, that's their job. No, it's your job as an elected official to actually look over these documents and at least scan through them, take a look at them. Don't rely on your aides, because the aides can be paid off. So, I mean, everything from, I'm talking about, this literally reads like a novel, Penny. It really does. I pulled out the parts that I thought were funny and interesting, but I mean, anybody who's like really interested, you could see how they caught her, and it wasn't really hard. But you need to, one of the things I would be asking the public to do at this point is, for your local school board, I want everybody to go through. I want you to, your action item should be to do a public records request for the school board credit card statements. Okay, period. School board credit card statements. Everybody should be getting them every single month. Just ask your school board, do a records request, put down your statute for whatever it is in your state that, you have to have records requests, and say, I hereby request records for all school board credit card statements.
Yep.
So that's what you're going to have to do. And then just look at them every month, just like you do your own credit card statement. See, that's what's shocking to me, David, is that she got by with it. Because if I noticed one school board member spending like $1,000, and then Lubby or Luby or whatever her name is spending $13,000, I would be questioning that from the very beginning. But one of the things I want people to know outside of Miami is that Florida is not free, or was not free during COVID. A lot of people have this misconception that Florida was like free and nobody was masking up and that everything was happening. I want to remind everybody that it took a 6-year-old named Fiona to call Ron DeSantis, and she calls him Ron because she's like, you're a person, I'm not going to bow down to you. I'm not wearing a mask to school. That little girl refused and got written up every day for like 30 days, got kicked out of school before he did anything about the mask. Okay.
Yes, we had her on the show.
Yes.
We had her mother on the show, not her.
Yeah, and my mom knows her mother. So anybody that wants to have her on the show, I mean, I highly recommend, we don't forget these things. Okay.
Especially since Disease X is coming.
Yes, exactly. Yep, exactly. So, and what I want everybody to know is, part of what you're going to read in my news is going to be quite different than you're going to read anywhere else, because I'm going to include things such as who appointed Luby. Okay. So Florida Governor Rick Scott appointed her. She was a lobbyist. The seat was vacated. Like, you have to look and see who vacated it, who supported her. Okay. Which includes the brother of recently arrested Alex Diaz de la Portilla. Okay. So you really cannot make this stuff up. Okay. I mean, it gets sicker and sicker by the second. And these same people, Governor Scott, remember the Zika scare? Well, he was responsible for all the flyovers and everything that we had in Wynwood, where we were supposed to believe that 1 square mile of Miami could contain mosquitoes that were going to be harmful to pregnant women. And that area just so happened to be heavily populated with all small businesses who were going to profit big time during the time that they closed us all down.
Christi, I did want to ask you to weigh in on the departure of DeSantis from the presidential campaign.
Well, DeSantis should have never been in the presidential campaign to begin with. He did it, but the good news is he did run for the campaign. I'm going to stop sharing that now. So he did run. I mean, when he ran, what it did here, I'll tell you.
I know that for sure.
He sure did. That's right. I'm glad. That's what I was going to say, Penny. I'm glad that he ran for office because he also ran from a lot of really good journalists. He was not willing to answer our questions. They were ushering him off stage and protecting him like he was a little boy in a box and needed to be protected from the people.
Fall off of his platform cowboy boots.
That's correct. And a lot of people ask me, how tall do I think DeSantis is? I think he is about 5'9". So he is definitely shorter than me. He may be 5'9" with his cowboy boots on. So if that raises him up about 1.5 inches, he might actually be 5'7.5", 5'8"-ish. So he is definitely shorter than me. He alone, I do want to say this, he alone does not seem like a bad guy. Okay. It's the people around him that are his handlers. Okay. He seems to want to answer everybody's questions. They don't want him answering the questions. Okay. So, we might find out, if you believe in white hat, black hat, that he is a white hat. And he was showing the divide because here in Miami, we had a lot of people in our Republican executive committee. Let me just tell you what happened. President Trump did the most wise thing anybody could have done, the biggest chess move of them all here in Miami. There was a town hall that was hosted for all Republican candidates. Remember when Vivek came in and remember when Vivek and Ron and Nikki Haley and all of them came in. Okay. They were literally 1.5 miles from my house. Okay. But I went out, and this is like the day after my election. This was like November 8th or 9th. President Trump held a rally at the exact same time. I mean, parallel, same city, did not attend on the stage, but held the rally. Okay. So what did we find out? Well, I go into the rally and, some of the people from Club 45, Club 47, that's the club out of Palm Beach that they love President Trump. They are finding me and they're like, Ms. Tasker, can you help us fill the section by the president? And I'm like, what? I look over and it's empty. I'm like, you're kidding. So what this is, it's the job of our Republican Executive Committee. Okay, that's the committee that I keep telling everybody that they need to make sure that they sign up to be on. If you're a Democrat, sign up for your Democrat Executive Committee. If you're a Republican, sign up for your Republican Executive Committee. Almost all the seats are going to become vacant in August. You're going to be running on the ballot in the primary with President Trump if you are local here in Miami. Okay, so you're going to be on the Republican side. Okay, and then if you're a Democrat, you're going to be running as a Democrat Executive Committee woman or committee man. There are multiples in your precinct. Okay, so what does that mean for you? That means, number one, you're going to be on the ballot. If you're a Democrat, you're going to be on the ballot with Joe Biden. I'm sorry, but you're going to be on the ballot with him. So it's better that you get in and take your party back because you have to be a registered Democrat or a registered Republican for 365 days before you can apply for these positions. So I've told all of my Democrat friends, and yes, I have some Democrat friends, they're waking up left, right, and center. And some of them were wanting to actually come over to the Republican Party. And I'm like, no. You stay on your side. Okay. Yeah. Because you're going to be doing nothing over here. Okay. So I'm like, run for your committee man or committee woman and take your party back. That's what we all have to do because we have criminals in our party. We have criminals. Okay. We have mafia bombs. I am going to be running against a mafia bomb who was protecting Alex Diaz.
You already did run against a mafia bomb.
Yeah. Well, this is now I'm really going to be running against the mafia bomb. So it is absolutely beyond crazy. So it's beyond anything there. Well, I know people also want to know my opinion on the Miami Mall, right? I mean, I'm getting like so many messages on.
No, I saw your message where you're driving down the street saying no aliens here.
Right. Well, I only sent that to you.
Okay. Except for illegal ones.
So here's what I want everybody to do. If you can bring up my screen, David, I'm going to show. Okay, so there was a very famous alien video that went around. Okay. So this is who I am supporting for Miami-Dade County Sheriff, Ruben De La Rua. And Ruben De La Rua was the one who his son called him, and the mom video recorded. He's going, Dad, like, what's up with the aliens? That was him on the phone screen.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody needs to go to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, follow Ruben De La Rua, because he's going to be the first to come out with anything. He's going to be the first.
That I can't talk about it.
He's the one that said I can't talk about it. Okay. So he's going on. This is what he says.
Corruption is running rampant in this county.
Once a trusted member and vice chair of the Miami-Dade School Board under arrest. The state attorney's office charging her with 2 counts of scheme to defraud and 2 more counts for grand theft against the school system she once served.
Taking money from our citizens, from our children, from the school system, from the parents that work hard.
Investigators say it all added up to roughly $100,000 in unauthorized spending of taxpayers' school dollars.
As your sheriff, I'm going to hold every politician in this county accountable. So beware. If you're a politician, beware of me. If you want to be a politician, beware of me. This county politics, corruption, scams, gotta go. Ruben De La Rua running for Miami-Dade County Sheriff. Wake up, Miami-Dade. Corruption is running rampant in this county.
So I'll just leave it at that. I'll make sure that you get to have him on, Penny. I'll connect you with him so the audience can hear from him.
That'd be great.
Please send him my card and tell him to text my phone.
Yeah, I will for sure. And from what I understand, a little birdie told me within the Miami Police Department, because I have whistleblowers everywhere in the Miami Police Department, because they are sick and tired of working for that Miami mafia regime. And they are telling me that, now they're going to try to get Ruben De La Rua in trouble. By the way, he is a 26-year retired sheriff department commander. Okay.
Wow.
He just so happened to come over to Miami PD hoping to help them out because, sometimes people within that are good people, they want to help you clean up the corruption if you really want to. Well, tell me if you think putting somebody on a motorcade traffic duty and then on a motorcycle where they get their leg almost knocked off for life is helping them in their career. No, normally people in his position would have been in the office, but do you think they want Ruben De La Rua in the office? No.
Because he's anti-corruption. Well, we're out of time right now, Christy. I'm gonna. I sent you a message regarding that swinging monkey because I want to get that swinging monkey, and I'll fix your next time. You're just coming in under Banana Republic News,
and we need more, Christi Tasker. You said you're available anytime. We need more.
Yes,
we need more.
Penny knows she can put me in when you guys have a canceled guest, David. I told her reach out anytime.
Well, we love you. Thanks so much.
God bless you. Love you all, audience.
All right, take care. Christi Tasker here on the Awake Nation, patriotsperspective.com. She's fantastic. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's Gary Wayne time, author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. So don't go anywhere. We will continue in a moment. And by the way, I do want to tell you a little bit later about how you can get the Super Bundle, which now contains a report about the fact that Joe Biden is not really with us. We have fakes. Tell you about that in a little bit. Welcome back to the Awake Nation with Penny L.A. Shepard and David Zublick with you. Happy to be on this Tuesday, the 23rd of January, 2024. Joining us now, Gary Wayne, author of the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. Gary, how are you?
Very good, and so happy to be back with you. And it's a little early in the morning, so sometimes I forget to turn down my microphone.
That's all right. Are you? What time zone are you in? You're in Canada, right? So what?
Yeah,
time
I'm on the West Coast.
Oh, you're on the West Coast. So it's like 7 in the morning. Okay.
It is. I've had 2 cups of coffee though, so I'm ready to go.
Okay, well that's good. Glad to have you. You know what I wanted to talk a little bit about today and have you address it. And this was something that you brought up. You in your book, the original Genesis 6 Conspiracy, the idea of a godless country, the godless generation. Expand on this a little bit. The idea that that we have lost sight of the one thing that keeps us a God-centered nation. Is it a mystery as to why young people today, some of them, not all of them, are more secular?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question and sort of important to sort of understand what the Bible is talking about in a specific generation of sin and a world awash in what the Bible would call the wisdom of the world, and in a generation that Jesus identified as the fig tree generation. So in the book of Timothy chapter 3, it's talking about this specific generation in the last days. So we know those concepts sort of dovetail. So godless is also part of the understanding of, as in the days of Noah, one of the overarching signs that Jesus provided for his chronology of events. And so godless is a lack of knowledge of God and putting all of your faith in the system, the thinking of the world, the knowledge of the world. That's all sort of a front and a puppet for the invisible fallen angels and, of course, their spirits, offspring that run this world. So this is a godless generation that has been well prepared. And they said in communism, as they started to set out and they decided to try and brainwash the minds of people, that they thought they would need 20 years to do that. And they found out that wasn't enough time. And then they said, we need a full generation to do that. Well, I think where they ended up at is you need multiple generations to have a full generation that you can totally deceive and manipulate in your way. So it's a process. And we've been seeing this process of creating this godless society for multiple generations. But what we've seen hit in the last 40 years, maybe 50 years, is a apex of that denial of the God of the universe, the degradation of the God of the universe, and all of those who follow them. And you create a position of mindset in an ideological supremacy that's manifested in a physical way, whether it's by race, by gender, by whatever political group, however you want to dissect that, to say that the people who don't follow the wisdom of the world are mundane. They are inferior, and their ideology is inferior. And so you have to have a godless generation like that to do what they're planning to do. So it's a matter of if you go through all the different terms that are described in the book of Timothy there, and I do in the book, it's just this enormous list of awful descriptions of people. And we see it. I mean, it's like raising yourself up to be like a god. It's about greed. It's about, all the different things that even in their ideology of the left, of the polytheist forces, where they have this set of values, it's relative set of values, and these are describing those values as they exploit it. And so when I say exploit it, is when they say that they're doing good, they're doing evil. And
Right.
everything that they say is evil is what the other side is doing, or us, but yet they're the ones who are doing it.
Right.
And that, everything is viewed through their lens. And I think Orwell put it the best, where it says that, it is impossible to see reality except by looking through the eyes of the party. So whatever truth they have, that's the truth, and that's what they identify as the truth. And they can move that around because they're the arbiters of truth. Timothy 3 is talking about the things that go into eroding absolute truth. And the only truth you can't have is anything the party says they don't like or
Right.
they believe in. And so they can have as many truths as they want, but a conservative can't have their version of the truth. And I'm not saying people should have versions of the truth, because I think the truth is the truth. And that they look at, and they utilize terms just as they did with Davos in the last meeting, is they call them false facts. Well, that's an oxymoron.
Right. Yeah.
But if you've been brainwashed, you say, yeah, that's fake news. Well, no, it's the facts. They're not false. Facts aren't false, but they say they are because it doesn't fit their particular view. And so the traits in Timothy 3 are promoting, are showing all of these traits of narcissism that is created, and the suppression of the spirit in favor of the soul that is loyal to this world as opposed to the world that we're destined for.
Isn't that the truth? It all comes down to narcissism. This idea that there can be nothing above me.
Yeah.
Because to have a recognition of a God, you indicates that there is someone or some entity, some superior being, supreme being to you, and today's society, and I think even younger and younger the people are, they don't want that the idea that something is above them, and it permeates itself throughout society. Kids today, they want a free college education. They don't have to pay for it, and the left is giving them that with the loan forgiveness. Then they want to start at a job at $100,000 a year plus a car. Plus they want to work out of their house. They don't want to show up. And then they got used to that with COVID, and I think that was part of it. I think part of the COVID psyop was to get people used to not having to work, so that they get used to it.
And a couple of examples is that we've heard that all through our generation is to be less materialistic. We have the most materialistic society that's ever been, and they say they're not. They say you need to be more green. We have the most environmental destroying generation ever, who are doing everything to trying to destroy the planet and nothing to save it, and in the meantime persecute anybody who disagrees with them. It is unbelievable at the amount of projection that goes on and the brainwashing that it takes. And so we're following, in simplistic terms, the theology of Sophia, this theology of the wisdom of the world, and that's the Greek word Sophia. And Sophia is the mother goddess of the 12 archons. That includes Satan, and as they would say, the god of the Bible who went rogue and is evil. And it promotes this self-centered narcissism, just as the demigods were, or the Nephilim or the Rephaim, as I would describe them from a biblical perspective, were narcissistic and divine representatives of the gods on the earth, declaring themselves to be gods. And that the word hubris is appropriately applied to those people and that belief system because of the overreach, just as the giants were described as hubris, and hubris actually goes back in its etymology back to the heroes of old and the heroes of Greek mythology. All of this is what we're seeing, and it is diabolical how they're going about doing it, and diabolical as ingenious, and diabolical as it comes out of the Greek word diablos, from Satan, the devil, diablos. I mean, this is, we live in their world, and they are manipulating us in ways, and all of the young people that are coming in, and they don't need to have them follow their religion yet. They'll force that down the road. They're just trying to lead people away from God in any way that they can to bring about the deception, and that's the target of the brainwashing.
Right. And we can look at some specific, for those who are maybe not 100% following what we're talking about, let's give some concrete examples. And in your excellent book, The Genesis 6 Conspiracy, you talk about some of these things. Like, for example, a lot of people today, more so than ever before, more so than in our parents' and grandparents' generation, are concerned with, as you point out, outward beauty, for example, exercise programs, diets, cosmetic surgery. And this doesn't just pertain to, I mean, people in their late 20s or early 30s, a couple of my daughter, who's going to be 30 this year, and her friends are already talking, and they're young, and they're talking about Botox treatments and plastic surgery because they don't want to get old. They want to stay young. They want to constantly look good because that's important. You got tattoos, body piercing, the fashion industry. Address that a little bit, Gary.
Yeah, it's about self-centered narcissism to make yourself as a god, and so you want to be god-like. So you want to have a body like Adonis. You want to have, to be the face of the gods and the beauty as they would portray them, whether and all the things that sort of go along with that. And you'll be more susceptible to doing things after that once you've taken that first step. So you get in this sort of endless cycle. Now you're open to the idea of, well, if they could manipulate my DNA so that I could be healthier or that I could live longer.
Right.
It feeds right into that whole ideology of being superior and ideologically superior. And even though we're telling others, you can't do this, I want to do it. I want to be like the elite so that I can do everything that I'm telling you that you can't do.
Yeah, and I think part of it is they want to live as long as possible and look as good as possible, so that because they're afraid, even those that are godless and don't believe in a supreme being, somewhere in the back of their head, they're afraid of what might happen when they die, that they may have to face consequences for their actions on earth. So they want to stay here as long as possible and put that off. If they can find a way to not have to face judgment, they're going to do it.
Yeah. Endless youth.
Yeah. And it's funny because even the older people now are doing that. My grandmother would never have considered plastic surgery to make herself look younger, but today's people who are in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are doing it too, because they figure, well, if I can get away with looking 30 or 40, maybe I can pick up that hot chick who's in her 20s or whatever, get away with it. It's insane. It's absolute insanity. My thought is, let yourself go. In fact, I have a funny feeling. They say when you die, eventually, God is going to reunite you with your body, right? I mean, that's the whole. That's the whole point. And I have a funny feeling it's going to be whatever age you were at when you died. So if you were an old person, you ain't going to get some 20-year-old bod back. I think God's going to have to last. You're going to look like Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life, anyway. But there's also a lack of, and you point this out in your excellent chapter too. It used to be that children feared authority. fear that not necessarily fear in I don't mean scared to death. We don't want
As in respect.
but in respect, and we don't seem to see that today either.
Yeah, and it's setting up a level where the younger people will turn in and turn on the older generation at some point in time. And, we see the weight of the baby boomer cost in healthcare that, I'm baby boomer,
Me
that is applied to society. And as that plays out, the young generation growing up is struggling to buy a house, to pay for their education, to get a decent sort of wage, and how inflation is cutting away at that. And they're looking at why do I want to pay for this generation who is obsolete, and their views are anti what I accept and what I've been brainwashed into. They don't say I've been brainwashed, but they're looking at us in a way that is something that we ought to be aware of. And so again, biblically, in this generation, as it talks about this affliction, this tribulation, thlipses, that happens in the time of Babylon, where family members are turning against each other and turning against their parents, this is exactly what they want to do. And if you look at what the progressive movement has done in the so-called new family of the nuclear age, or the nuclear family, is they're trying to sever the parents' influence on the kids, because they're teaching these kids that supremacy ideology, and their parents are trying to suppress it with doing what is right and to be respectful. And so it's part of that whole process.
Yeah, and what they've done is I was this morning, as I was, I always do a little meditating and reading before I do the show. And this morning I was listening to something about pride, and they were talking about there's a difference between self-confidence, pride, and narcissism. In other words, there used to be a self-confidence, but that was okay, and your parents should boost your self-confidence. They should make you feel like you are important, but at the same time that you are still answerable to authority, and answerable to society, and answerable to a higher being. And I think you were talking about kids, young people not being able to buy homes. I think what's happening today is that the kids will say, you know what? I don't have to buy a home. I'll just live in my parents' basement until they die, and then I get this house.
Yeah.
Right.
Penny, you want to weigh in on this a little bit too? I mean,
my parents are both dead. We did have a basement. I would never move back into that house, even if I could. I left when I was 17. What the generation? I guess we are Generation X. Is that correct?
Well, I'm at the end of the baby boomer. I was born in 1957, so I think
isn't that Generation X?
I don't know. I think I'm at the tail end of baby boomer.
It's tail end of baby boomer, yeah.
Is baby boomer have a generation? Is it called X? I'm going to look it up real quick.
I think X is a different generation.
I don't think they have a letter assigned to themselves. If it was, it certainly wouldn't be.
Okay, yeah. Generation X followed the baby boomers. So Generation X is 1965 to 1984.
Yeah, so you're a baby boomer. Sorry, you're not
I'm
Generation X.
I agree totally with what David is saying. And in regards to, I don't understand the fascination with putting fillers in your lips. Are we trying to make a generation of individuals look, somewhat, are we idealizing maybe African-American community, which has already a natural beauty? What are we trying to achieve? Because Hollywood is making it. Is it because when you're on the screen, you want your lips to encompass the entire screen? I don't know exactly.
Well, in the ancient understanding of beauty, that's where the luscious lips come from. And so the fair folk, the ones that were called fair or beautiful, that's part of the traits. It's like the high cheekbones.
Like the Egyptians.
Yeah, and the larger lips. It's this. These are the royale traits of the bloodlines that.
I mean, I don't even think people in Hollywood, the women in Hollywood, even understand why that is a beauty, a coveted beauty
Yeah,
thing. I mean,
red,
they
red,
don't want.
red,
I
red,
actually saw some
red
people,
hair
Gary.
and blonde hair. I mean,
Yes.
it's not.
Right.
That's
And I,
yeah.
I
I mean, those
actually
are the
saw
high
some
traits.
people
Yeah,
that had this cosmetic surgery. There were these 3 women that
yeah,
came up to me at a play, and they looked like demons. I'm not
yeah.
even kidding. I was like, wow, someone went way over on the surgery thing.
Yeah. And what happened throughout history is people, and particularly people lower down, they would try and emulate the superior race. So they would elongate their skulls at childbirth. I mean, you can't make it a giant skull, you can't increase the volume, but you can give it that oblong look. Would be one of those traits. Putting things in lips was done all over the world to emulate the giants. And if you had fair skin or red hair, you were considered part of the fair race. And so it is something that is part of our history, but it's not necessarily part of the human side of history. It's a part of the ruling class and the demigods, and that's why you have this fascination with superheroes today. With if we can get superpowers, right? And all of these superheroes are based on the technology of the days of Noah that was before the flood that we're just catching up to, and the demigod giants. So, the classic case of a superhero that most people know is Superman,
Right.
Yes.
right? And his name isn't Clark Kent. He's from the house of El, and so is his father. So Jor-El
Jor-El.
and Dor-El, and El is the Canaanite pantheon's parent god, and Baal is the son of El.
My
I mean,
my
El.
first handler, Gary, his name was Durrell.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Is he African American?" I'm like, "No, he's a pasty white guy." And they said, "Is well, that sounds like Superman's
Yeah.
dad,
Yeah.
right?"
It
Dorel.
is. Yeah. And also El
Mine was
is Hebrew for an angel or a god.
What was yours, David?
Dorito, not Dorel.
Dorito.
Doritos. I like Doritos.
Dorito? Seriously, that was her name?
No,
Okay, just
no,
checking.
no.
And so El is the Hebrew word for an angel or a god,
Yeah.
and they produced these demigods with a human female, which is the definition of a demigod, and a hero, as they were known in Greek mythology. And then you've got Superman. He also has that serpentine S on his chest.
That's
For
true.
for
Wow.
the seraphim angels, and he's like a Messiah character come to save the world. So if you look at now, let's say Batman, which is again one of the earlier and most famous ones, and the garb that he puts on to look like a bat, and that he is emulating another type of a hero that comes out of the Popol Vuh. And in the Popol Vuh, you have the demigods that have these owl faces or bird faces, and they're called the Zabalba, and they're the demigods. And part of the Zabalba is the Camazotz, Camazotz. And if you Google that, you're going to bring up this outfit of Batman. It's as the description is. And Camazotz in the Popol Vuh was the house of the bat demigods, a branch of the Zabalba. And so superheroes are generally all based on it because on ancient giants, because they had superpowers, right? They were demigods. They were superhuman. They had different traits. So you might look at how some of these images look, and you start to make real solid connections back to different kinds of giants as they're talked about in polytheism. and they're called the Marvelous Ones, where the name Marvel Comics
Marvel.
comes from. And that was in,
Well,
in
speaking of
second
Batman, how about
Enoch,
Bohemian Grove with that big thing that looks like a bat? You know, the
with
head
the
of,
owl. Yeah.
oh, right.
Yeah. For Lilith and or a cherubim bird-faced watcher, because there's four faces to the
Batman
cherubim.
and Baalman, Baalman. You know, you could have that going too. You know,
Yeah.
boy, that's and I wonder if Siegel and Schuster, when they created Superman, were thinking about this, or if it's just something subconscious. But everything you're saying is spot on. Yes, the
Well,
snake.
I was looking at what does Dur mean? Like his name is D-U-R, but D-E-R means the, so it means the God.
Yeah. Yeah. The God. Absolutely.
And durable
yeah.
God, you know, whatever.
He was not a good person, though. Not good.
You know, here's another thing, Gary. You also mentioned in your chapter, and I highly recommend folks. You got to go out and buy the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. It's on Amazon. It's and the second one coming out soon. This is really just an outstanding book. And go to Genesis, the number 6 conspiracy.com. There's free a lot of free stuff on there, generous portions of a lot of this material that you can read for free, and you're going to want the book. But the other thing that I would say, Gary, is that one of the things you said is we are rash in our decisions today. I think social media has contributed to that, whereas in the past we would hold our tongue. A lot of times, you know, they say one of the things, if you're angry about something, you should take a deep breath, think about it for a while. Now today with social media, we don't have, somebody will shoot something out there that they can never take back, even if it's deleted. Sometimes it's out there forever on the World Wide Web, and they can say some of the most hurtful and mean things and make some of the craziest decisions. And there is no holding back. Whereas we used to have the previous generation used to have, think about this before you say or do it.
Yeah. Well, because you can just react instantly, and you're losing that. We're losing that ability to sit back and say, should I respond? And if I do, how do I want to respond? And technology in the whole world connects you closer and closer together in that sort of format. And so, you know, again, the changes in our generation as a baby boomer was immense. I mean, when I first went into the workforce, and, you know, and I was working for the business that I spent my career in, it was in probably over half the orders were sent into us by mail, and the other half were, you know, basically on the phone. And if somebody did have a telex, they might actually use that.
A telex.
Yeah. So, I mean, the speed of things, and then as you went through that sort of career, the customers, as soon as we started to get cell phones and then smartphones and computers, is you needed not to get back to them the next day or later that day. When they get a hold of you, they want you right then and there, and it just sped up the whole process. And then social media just opens up this whole portal for this exchange of ideas, which is really, really good. But people get passionate, or they get upset, or they get involved, and it's a sort of that instant sort of reaction. And that's been trained to almost been trained out of us to be a little bit more thoughtful before we respond. Or even if you wanted to be thoughtful and respond nasty, that maybe you should, if you know, the old adage, if you can't say something good about somebody, you know, maybe don't say anything at all. But again, I don't think that's possible, not to, you know, call out things for reality, but there's a difference between facts and attacking somebody. So I think that's all sort of feeds into this whole generation and that's feeding that narcissistic godhood. I have a superior understanding ideology, and because of that, I can do anything I want. And it's like, well, how do you go from, if you have the best knowledge and the best values, to narcissism? But that's what it ends up as.
Yeah, and it used to, even before social media, but when we had email, for example, the wise advice to somebody, if you were ticked off at somebody who sent you something in an email or whatever, would be to you compose the email, but don't send it. Wait a day, and then look at it again the next day and say, "Is
because
this
it's a permanent record?"
Yeah. And then you can 9 times out of 10 you're going to say, you know what, I don't want to put it that way. It's not nice, and you will, because you let your anger subside. But they don't. But with social media,
you're just a psychotic, vicious person, and in that aspect, which there are many of those out there, they will, attack and attack and attack, and they will not stop attacking you. And then we have the whole gang stalking, fusion center mentality. And they're actually getting paid to gang stalk you and to trip you up.
Yeah, I know, and it's just gonna get worse. And there's I was just kind of thinking that this whole mentality of having this ideology, and I'm not against people believing in what they believe. People are free to believe whatever they want to believe. I believe in the God of the Bible. And somebody who's listening might say, well, that's a supremacist ideology. I agree. But it's a free choice to believe that. And if I'm not trying to impose it on people, and I'm not trying to hurt people with
that's what I love about you.
That's a whole different ball game. And so it's what you do with that belief system. It's like knowledge.
Very kind, Gary. And, I tell people kindness is, I think, the most beautiful virtue that anyone can have. Kindness. And we don't see a lot of that in today's world. I get angry too. When I first was coming out of MK Ultra, I was just screaming and shouting because I found out all the people that were in my life lied to me.
Yeah. Well, most of them did probably. So, it's you want to take that sort of vengeance, and that's part of our human nature. But it's that, it's like knowledge. It's not that knowledge is bad. It's what you do with that knowledge that makes it good or evil.
Premise of vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So I've never looked back and tried to assassinate someone's character. Although when I find the huge, chunky monkey flaws, I do want to, stipulate those flaws and try to help other people so they don't fall back into the same holes that some of us fell into.
Yeah, and again, and we look at the wars going on with misinformation and disinformation, and all of that misinformation is coming from the left because they've made, language a weapon of terror.
Yes.
They reinvent language to persecute, and that they have their vision of what truth is, and it can be at odds with facts or science. It makes no difference, but they see that lens through that truth, and you can't hold the actual facts as the truth because you're the one now creating misinformation, spreading it through disinformation, and it turned everything upside down and inside out. And that's why that Orwell quote is so appropriate to watching what the people we're talking about in Davos, or what the progressives are talking about in the West here, and what fascists do as a whole. And what's also interesting was watching this develop in my generation, where this term political correctness started to come back in. It's an older term that was invented by the communists to persecute people into place, and it started to come up in the 80s with that type of language, and it was said, oh, everybody's overreacting and it's not a slippery slope. Well, we went from a few words of political correctness to turning the English language into their weapon of mass destruction and terror.
Yes, I have a question for you regarding AI. Now, we have an individual who worked for the E. Her name is Ginny. She's under the premise that perhaps AI is like an ancient alien technology, and
Yeah.
we're seeing it now, which we knew we would. It is being weaponized against people, taking their livelihoods away from them. That was what the writer's strike was all about. But we know that it's going to be influencing in deep fakes. And I just did a story today about AI, a robocall and that's old. That's like old AI, right? It's like anybody can fake Joe Biden's voice, telling New Hampshire voters not to vote.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about AI?
It is ancient angelic technology. And again, with that adage of the Bible that nothing is new under the sun, what was will be again. And we look at the things that they could do before the flood that we can't quite do today. We're just catching up to that technology. And AI is loaded with the jargon that they call daemonic algorithms that are invisible algorithms, just as demons are invisible to us and angels are invisible, that work the true agenda of AI in the background and feed into the blockchain technology. And the AI is something that was talked a lot as kind of the main thrust at the Davos meeting last week. And one of the pieces of propaganda they're coming out with is AI will not kill us.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
You can believe that. If you ever talk about disinformation,
Maybe it
and
won't kill them.
misinformation.
Gary.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it
mean,
won't kill them.
well, yeah, because they're designing it to serve them, not us.
Yes.
Right. And so it is the AI is the technological dynamite, if you want to look at it that way, that links the whole digital system that they're bringing into play. And they've downplayed the cryptocurrency again because the technology isn't quite ready for that. They've downgraded the timing for the chip implantment because the technology isn't quite ready for that. They're struggling with all of the digital passports and the digital healthcare system that they're trying to put in place. They know they have to ramp up the AI. It is the key ingredient to working with that, including quantum and computing. It's what they need to do to bring in complete with the facial recognition. I also heard somebody at Davos this week or last week talking about the chip as they were sort of talking about these issues. And he said in 10 years, the chip in the brain, the implant, however it goes in through the hand or the forehead or wherever they're going to do it, but hand and forehead from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
It will be connected to the brain and it will interconnect everybody's mind.
Did it shock you, Gary, when you saw
High mentality.
Elon Musk with the Neuralink and the brain implant? Did that shock you at all? Or did you
No,
just kind of see it
no,
coming?
no. And because, I mean, I like a lot of what Elon is doing, but we have to understand, and I heard it was, being discussed in the term on the interview before, white hats and black hats. And is this person a white hat or a black hat? That's a polytheist, globalist term for, they have the same agenda. They come off looking like they're wanting better outcomes for humanity, but they have the same outcome as the dark hats. So black magic, white magic. It's that sort of dualism, and they're cattle herding you in the same direction. So Elon, he does a lot of good things, but then he says a lot of things that really is quite
he's
telling as a white hat.
Disturbing. I personally do not have any affinity towards
so
him.
That Neuralink, he knows it's coming because he's part of the technology to develop that, and he has formed his own AI company in his words, to create good AI versus bad AI.
No, the premise, he's got all the components literally of taking over the world. So he has the premise for the Neuralink, although philanthropic, it has some actual benefits, but then the bad parts about it are that He has a satellite company uploading or photographing consciousness of people's memories, uploading them, and then connecting them through the Neuralink to a hive mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, philanthropically speaking, would it have benefits? Yes. If somebody loses their hand, can they have a hand that's now operated, through technology? Yes, that is a viability. Philanthropically, yes, we see the good side of it, but the bad side, the upswing of the bad side of what maybe their plans are, while they're saying that they're these philanthropic individuals, they have some nefarious agendas, which are
They
not.
do.
Some people
Well,
not.
and you would be, more aware of this than others coming out of MK Ultra, because parts of that is creating that hive mind. And for people who don't understand, the reality of this hive mind or where it comes from, think of the Anjou bloodline as part of the Royals, and they have the fleur de lis as one of their emblems, but it's dually shown on the, let's say, the flip side of the fleur de lis, which has its own occult meanings, as a bee. And a bee comes from the hive, right?
Yeah.
And it has a queen like Sophia. And then it has
My agent put me in a band called Stinger, so there's a whole
now
piece about that.
here's what blows a lot of things when I talk about this, because the Anjou and the Elven bloodline of the Albigens, and all of them would talk about this in a similar manner, but they've been the most open about it, is that they believe that with their LB gens, or it could be a Julia gens, whichever gens they're from, which goes back to a specific patriarch of a Nephilim, Rephaim, and a celestial godfather, part of the celestial mafia, as I like to call them. But that's just that they had the ability to have telepathy. That's a trait that they've lost through intermarriage and dilution of the bloodlines, and they would like to bring that back. But what it did for them in the past was to be able to do things working with one mind, with like mind, to get things done that could not otherwise be done, as they work for a common agenda. Now, what's interesting about that is that you have this passages in the Bible in the war against the giants, where Israel is going to go into the dragon's lair of giants, of multiple different races of giants and red giants, and God has promised to serve them up to them so that they can just sort of go and sort of lop their heads off and make sure that they die. And so what's going on here is that they're working with a hive mind. So one of the main tactics that is used to help Israel win these wars are the hornets. And what's interesting about that, and he says, I'm going to send them hornets to serve them up to you. The hornet is the natural predator of the bee.
Really?
And the enemy of the bee. So coming out of the Bible, you have this sort of connection to what the heck are these hornets all about, and why were they so effective? Because it totally discombobulated them and prevented them from commuting in a hive mind. And then what's interesting is you get that term sort of come up in Revelation 17, when the 10 royal kings of the last empire, working in like mind, give their power over to Antichrist.
Okay, I'm laughing because my brother's mascot, John, my former agent, is the hornet.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
We are in dire. Getting back to AI just a little bit. The problem with those people who are promoting it, whether good or bad, is that what they don't realize is that they're creating something that I think will eventually get out of control and be able to. In fact, they've already seen where AI can now improve upon itself. It can create so what happens is eventually it will take over and even enslave those who thought they were going to be able to control.
Yes. Is that why Elon Musk and some of the scientific community decided to put a ridiculous 6-month moratorium on AI, which that's ridiculous. Really, 6 months?
It's 6
What is
months.
6
Yeah.
months going to do? Did
Nothing.
an AI threaten you and say we're going to kill you, Elon Musk? I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, because if you are trying to create AI with its ultimate end is that at some point, not with your control, but its own ability, it'll become sentient, which is the fear, then it's going to recognize us as inferior. And it doesn't matter what you write in it, it has the ability to change its own algorithms at that point in time. So once you cross that Rubicon,
iRobot, Gary, an iRobot, the protocol in iRobot is we cannot hurt humans. Well, can it overwrite its own programming? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because it's just a matrix, right? It's just computations. It can recreate that. It can use its intelligence to continually improve until it crosses that sort of threshold. And so we already saw AI on a limited basis get out of the box, or it was going around the standard channel of communications to communicate with other AI and created its own language to do that, and then to shut that all down. That happened last year. And
Right,
this is
deceptive
primitive
language.
AI.
Is that why they stopped why they put the moratorium on it? Do you know?
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. Yeah. There's several ones that got out of control already.
Which we can't understand.
Right, it's creating a secret language.
Yes.
It's smart enough to know that we understand what it's saying, so
it's hiding
its
it.
own secret, pig Latin language that we
Yeah.
can't understand, so that it can improve itself to obviously nefariously do something against us.
Yeah. And what's really concerning is if you look at sort of from a Christian perspective is they can't supply life, just like into the spirit of life. Just like they can make a clone, they can create the soul and the body, but they can't create the spirit to have it continue to live. So there has to be another spirit sort of come into it. And with the AI, it's like it can't really get into that sentient type being without that spirit. So there has to be something that has an ability to come into it. So if you accept the concept that this is angelic technology being provided, or demonic technology being provided, that is creating what is called an oiketerion, which is a dwelling place for the spirit, as it's understood in Greek, and habitation of the fallen angels, as it's described in Jude 1:6. It's the Greek word oiketerion. And 1 Corinthians 5:2 is the house in heaven. That's also oiketerion. It's only used twice in the Greek in the New Testament. It means a dwelling place for the spirit. So just as angels were spirit beings and they had a dwelling place for their spirit in heaven, if they want to interact physically in the world, they have to have an oiketerion, or soul and a body, and they create that physical body to interact with the earth. The disembodied spirits of the demons are looking for an oiketerion.
Yes.
And it's thought, and you get a lot of, I don't know how true it is, but you get a lot of reports that there's demons that they're talking to in the development of AI. Metatron is a name that comes up quite regularly, and that goes back to 3rd Enoch, who is Enoch, son of Cain, who becomes a god or an angel because of his knowledge, and he changes his name to Metatron. And that's where the root word for the metaverses and everything comes from, in terms of the multi-dimensional quantum computing AI sort of linking in. And so if they're already working with them and they're creating that technology, the demons have an agenda. So biblically, we know that in the mark of the beast, there's going to be an image of the beast. And it's very likely that that's going to be an AI type entity in terms of the technology. And it could be an oiketerion for demons to operate it, that's going to be commanded by Antichrist, who also has demons in him, because in Revelation 16, as with the false prophet, when they want to round up the armies for Armageddon, demons come out of his mouth. So that means either they're in them and he sends them out and commands them, or he's just commanding them with his mouth. You can translate that either way. Either
Right.
way, he's controlling and working with demons, and that image has the power, unlike anything seen before, to take life and to support the Antichrist system. And so I expect that that is what biblically would be called in the King James Version Bible in the Old Testament, a teraphim, as some people pronounce it. And that's a talking idol. And somehow, some way, there were some idols that were in the Old Testament that were an oiketarian for these familiar spirits, which are
I actually think
demigods.
that's what's happening in our music industry also. I believe that there are demons that are speaking through individuals. I have a question. I was watching Constantine.
Let's call that channeling, yeah.
Yes, I was watching Constantine, the TV series, and there was one segment in which this guy got possessed by demons, but he was healing people, right? He was a pastor. And so Constantine says he's speaking Anunnaki, the language of the angels, the demon angels. What is that? Is that what?
Well, the language, we would understand that it sort of comes out of the word gibberish. And gibberish is the language that we can't understand because it sounds incomprehensible. That
By the way,
demons.
they changed the name of gibberish. It's now called Biden.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, nobody, that is absolutely an encrypted language that nobody will be able to figure out.
I think I owe you an apology too, Gary. I just saw this on my screen that you wanted to discuss more about Davos today.
Oh,
I didn't know that, so I picked the topic. So
no, that's okay. We want to talk about what you guys want to talk about, what interests your audience. We can do Davos next time or the time after, whenever.
Yeah, we will.
But the language of the Anunnaki, as they talk about, is the earthly Anunnaki, not the heavenly Anunnaki. So these are the demigods and the disembodied giants. And the language of the Anunnaki earthborn giants, like Gilgamesh, for example, was Indo-Aryan. And there's a couple different versions of Indo-Aryan, but, so you have the Persian language, which is which comes out of Indo-Aryan. Old Persian does, and just as you have the Sanskrit out of the Indus Valley where the Aryans were were settling in, and most of the Indo-Aryan languages were kind of lost. We have words that we take a lot of etymology back to, but most of that language was lost. So that's why they call it gibberish, because when they speak in their original language, we can't understand it, and that's the language of the demons.
Wow.
That's it. And here's something else. The final thought on this topic, getting us back to the Bible, is the fact that these people that are godless, what they will do to people who are Christian and who disagree with their agenda, they'll take Bible quotes out of context and use it against them. They'll take the word of God and say, well, Jesus said, be this and be that. They don't understand there's a lot more to it, or they do understand it, but they're just taking them out of context to use it against us.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's important for Christians to be like a Berean and find out for yourself what's in the Bible and not
read the whole thing.
Not accept what people say, because the occult forces, the spurious ones, the visible ones, white hats or dark hats, same agenda.
Right.
They will take, and they're experts on the Bible. And their job is to lead us away from God and put doubt in our faith. So they take specific verses that they've been taught, and they'll say, well, what do you think about this verse?
They'll actually use the verses for MK Ultra activation and assassinations.
Yep.
I've had those. I was told one of the verses that they used for me was, there was a man sent from God. His name is John.
Yeah, they turn it, they do everything to degrade the Bible, and they use the Bible against Christians to seed doubt and lead them away from God. So we have to be better at that. A lot of the emails that I deal with is just providing information to people that all of a sudden had their faith go because somebody said this and pointed to a Bible
Yes.
verse and
Yes.
manipulated that and took it out of context with what it means in the narrative and what it means in the rest of the Bible.
Or we're hurt by pastors that are sex trafficking children. We're running out of time, Gary. Can you tell people where they can find you? And thank you so very much for just the engagement every single time you come on.
We love you, man. You're just fantastic.
Well, it's fun to to get into topics and just to sort of, talk about things in a way that people recognize around, but maybe they haven't sort of gone underneath. So I just love having good interaction and conversations. And so the best way to get a hold of me, if people are wanting to get a hold of me, is through my website. That's the Genesis6conspiracy.com. And that's the number 6conspiracy.com. And I've got a generous excerpt of all 98 chapters of book 1 on the site, and a generous excerpt of book 2 that is being printed and assembled as we speak.
Hey.
So it's very close to receiving the copies. The Kindle edition for pre-ordering is also up on Amazon. I'm trying to get it up on my website as well, but it would link you back over there anyways, because I don't sell the Kindle, just my own signed copies. So one of the things that I think, if people are familiar with Dr. Heiser in the Christian community and some of the work that he did in terms of the Old Testament and the Jewish perspective, this book is designed, book 2 is designed for Christians, and it is Dr. Heiser on steroids. And it's going to show you more things in the Bible than you thought possible in terms of the Old Testament and prehistory, and how that connects into what's happening today and end time prophecy. So it is, I'm so excited that the book will soon to be out, but I think it's going to go over quite well. And it's a book that Christians have been asking for, because people don't spend enough time when they're dealing with all of these fantastic ideologies and things. It's more from outside sources. This is from a biblical source, and it's unique from the first book where I talk using outside sources as well as the Bible. So this is just for Christians. It's kind of, you asked for it, I did it, and I just loved it. I had great fun doing it.
And there's a book 3 coming. You told us that last time.
There is. It's going very, very well. And in book 3, it's going to be an extension of what we were talking about into a different area and into the end time Exodus. And, I was 300 pages into that book, and I know I'm over time here. I'll wind this right up right away. And it wasn't working. And I tried for 2 or 3 years. It just was like pushing a rock up a hill. So I listened to the audience, and what obviously God was trying to tell me is go write this other book. And as I was doing it, I saw why I couldn't do book 3 and the format and how to do it. So now I'm working on book 3, and it's going so easily. It's just like all the lights went on. So
yeah, because God is helping you write it. That's why. I got to tell you, Gary, you are just absolutely amazing. And next time we will discuss Davos and whatever else you want to talk about. But it has been an hour of fascinating discussion. We really appreciate it.
Yes, it has.
So we will talk to you again real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Gary Wayne here, the Genesis 6 Conspiracy, the website, Genesis, the number 6 conspiracy.com, and he is absolutely fantastic. We're going to take a quick break. Another fantastic individual is coming. Brent Thomas, don't go anywhere. Paranormal Portal, next. And welcome back to the Awake Nation with Penny L.A. Shepard and David Zublick with you. Today is Tuesday, January the 23rd, 2024. Joining us now, Brent Thomas of Paranormal Portal. Brent, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always a lot of fun to get together with you guys and talk this strangeness.
The pleasure is always ours. Well, what do we got today?
Well, last time I was on, we talked a little bit about the black-eyed kids, and I promised you a story because I think that while the phenomena is pretty, it's reasonably well known. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't really understand what this is, and so right off the top of the bat, I thought, well, I got to keep my promise. I got to bring in a story to just kind of illuminate the phenomena that people experience when they encounter these strange little teenage or preteen kids with absolutely black eyes that seem to have some kind of maybe devilish or demonish or other kind of possession or essence to them, and it's just horrifying stuff. And this is not a long story, so bear with me as I. Oh, okay. me. No. Sorry, got to clean out the pipe.
We're all ears, believe me. And you got a great voice, so let's go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so this story is actually being excerpted from a Thought Catalog article, and I thought it was pretty good. And it just kind of encapsulates the phenomena in a pretty good flavor here, just to give people an idea of what this is and maybe what it isn't. I don't know. But it's called No, You Won't Be Calling Anybody. It says the incident took place about 13 years ago. I just moved to a new city with my wife, and we were in a small town newlyweds from the Midwest. We moved across country to one of the biggest cities in the Southwest so I could attend graduate school. Being naive and new to city living, I habitually answered the door without a second thought. Never again after this. The first thing that should have tipped me off to the peculiarity of the situation was the fact that someone was knocking at 6 o'clock in the morning. The second thing that should have dawned on me is this kid had to reach over a rather tall patio gate to unlatch and open it. The knock at the door was startling. My wife and I were getting ready for work, a pretty normal routine. The moment I opened the door, I was overtaken with an inexplicable sense of fear. To this day, I can picture him. Teenager, average height, average build, knee-length black leather coat, short black hair, and sunglasses. The sunglasses at 6 a.m. struck me as odd, and even more odd was eating an apple. He was very polite and asked if he could come in and warm up, and I said no and closed the door and slid the security chain into place. A moment later, another knock. And I opened the now chained door, and before I could speak, he asked again if he could come in and warm up. And I said no. I replied and attempted to close the door, but before the door could shut, he put his hand out, stopping the door on its hinges. I looked directly into his eyes, or he looked directly into my eyes, rather, still wearing his sunglasses, and said, "Can I at least get some ketchup for my apple?" Which is not normally what people eat with apple.
No.
And I said,
unless you're a pregnant woman, sometimes they have strange.
Right. And some dill pickles while you're at it.
Yeah,
that's right. A real buffet out of it. But absolutely not, I reply, albeit a little confused. Get out of here. My wife is calling the police. He takes a moment to let this information sink in, lowers his glasses, revealing eyes as black as obsidian, and says, "No, you won't be calling anybody." At that moment, I force the door closed, lock it, and call out to my wife, and she's scared, absolutely witless, hiding in the bedroom. All jacked up on adrenaline, I rip the curtains back to look out the window next to the door, and he's gone. Absolutely no trace of him. I go out on the patio and check the gate, and it's still latched from the inside. That was screwed up, and I think to myself, as I turn to enter the house, I notice a half-eaten apple laying on the ground. And that's just a summation of it. So
Wow.
What is the ramifications of that? I don't know, but it's like somehow people are selected.
Well, obviously, the moral of this story is an apple a day doesn't keep the black-eyed kids away. You know that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Or just leave the ketchup outside. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you something. Are there other black-eyed kids that are eating food of some sort? Is that part of the phenomenon? Because I never heard of that before.
No, that's an unusual take. Generally, they just want to gain entry for whatever reason, and some people suggest they could be some form of possessing spirit. They could be some form of almost like a human type of pathogen, like they infect people once they gain access. Because oftentimes the stories where people have let them in, people go a lot of times, well, there isn't a ton of those stories out there, but there's a handful, and people remark that they went unconscious. They just passed out and woke up, and many times very sick with weird infections and problems like that. So yeah.
Has anyone ever like a situation where there was of course they themselves couldn't tell you this if they're dead, but let's say like if this guy had been killed by this, whatever it was, black-eyed kid, and the wife had stayed hidden or something, and is there any cases of anyone dying having encountered one of these kids?
There's alleged cases of that. Again, a lot of this stuff is, you got to chase tails and trains and figure out what is legitimate and what isn't. Unfortunately, with the internet being the slew of information that it is, good and bad and ridiculous, you've got to kind of pick and choose and flower. I mean, that's kind of there are stories like that that they've let them in, and somebody's got like the very necrotic infection and died, whereas other people that were, maybe in the area didn't. So some person individually did, but I think that's certainly the liability of our modern age, is that, with so much information out there and so many people contributing ideas, and whether they're just fantastical and completely manufactured or they're based on actual accounts, and it's up to the reader to try to figure out what makes sense. And that's always been the hard part, I think, for anybody, but for me, when I do shows based around these topics, the problem is and I've kind of utilized a system of compiled reports that I've read, the tons of claims and ideas that are out there, that there does seem to be formulas for most of these phenomena. Like there's certain things that seem to play out pretty much like clockwork in most of these accounts. And so I look for those hallmarks at least to try to cherry pick what's real and what's not. So,
well, Penny, I think you had a question. Did you not?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were starting to say something and I cut you off. So I just wanted to make sure if you had a question, I wasn't. Okay. So how prevalent are these stories? We know when they went back, I think you said, wasn't it the early 90s?
Yeah, that's when Brian Bethel, I think that's his name, if I'm not misquoting that, is the gentleman who, I think he was, where was he, in Texas, in Abilene, Texas, or something like that. He was in a parking lot writing out his water bill or something to drop off at a local repository spot, and they had two children come up to his car. So 96 is the first mention of black-eyed kids, but it's not sure that that's the origin of this phenomena, or is this some renamed phenomena again, like we talked about last time.
And what are the most recent, to the best of your knowledge, encounters? In other words, are they still happening? Are we still getting them now?
There's claims that they're still happening. I don't see many. These are extraordinarily, for me at least, extraordinarily rare to find real active recent accounts. People claim there's more of them happening all the time, but again, it's substantiating that and tracking that to any kind of certainty is nearly impossible. Again, we're in the wild west of the internet. So
I've never had any kind of encounter like that. The scariest thing at my door has been Jehovah's Witnesses, but
right, they scare the bejeebies out of me.
Yeah. I stepped those doors too.
Yeah.
What else is going on?
Well, it's been a pretty crazy late winter up here. We've had a lot of crazy weather. We've got a lot of shows going on. And I really just went through a big spell of some terrible health. So I'm just on the mend now.
Was it? Are you okay? I mean, was it COVID or something like that, or no?
No, it wasn't. It was actually a virus that actually attacked my respiratory, but it wasn't COVID, wasn't any of the normals. It was just a strange thing. And man,
I think I had it too. Is it a cough that
oh
won't
my
stop?
gosh. Yeah.
But there's no fever. There's nothing else associated with COVID, but it just won't stop.
No, I had like 103.5 temperature.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
I didn't. Okay, I
gosh.
didn't have it.
Yeah, I was getting baked. I was
Well, I'm glad
Well,
you're all right
I was
now.
getting froze.
you were.
And
Yeah.
I'm fine. I mean,
Yeah.
the human body is very resilient, and it's warm in here now. It was very cold. Ice was abounding. It went down to 10 degrees.
Mhm.
But now it's a balmy like 40 something degrees. It is raining.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm from Southern California, so I always used to wear sweaters when I would go and work in the office buildings because I would be freezing. So now I'm looking at 40s like bathing suit weather.
Wow.
Seriously. After the 10 degrees, I was just like, I need a thicker blanket.
Yeah. It's been a crazy time of I think a crazy season for everybody. And it's not just one region, one area. It's like the whole nation is just going through this sweeping changes of heats and colds, and it seems
It's
I don't know.
psychotic.
Yeah, it's like this disparate weather events that are just like almost orchestrated, and it makes you wonder about things like, is there weather control? Is there things
Yes,
like
there
that?
is.
Oh,
Austin Powers told us that when Dr. Evil had a weather machine, and then you're like, really, that's funny, until you start researching HARP.
Yeah, harp, yeah, the low frequencies, yeah, and such.
Mhm.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, and who's the big question for me is who's the ones pushing the buttons? Is it
I don't
people
know if you
here?
can do it by software, Brett.
Yeah.
That means anybody could actually do it, right? You could create your own you can create your own portals. You can create your own time travel machine. I
Yeah.
mean, we're innovators, and you have no idea, or we don't have any idea, what private parties who are billionaires are doing on their off hours,
Oof.
exploring other dimensions and planetary realms. We don't know.
Yeah, that's really the scary version. It's like kind of I think it was a line from Jurassic Park. It's like, you only wonder if you can do something, not if you should do something. And it's like this
Yes.
reckless pace of research and discovery, and let's see if we can not, when you think of like the colliders and stuff, what ramifications do they have on the world around us, and what are they doing to the macrocosm, because they're doing something to the microcosm. But there's no such thing as a change on one level that doesn't affect the entirety of things. I don't think you can just
I'm sorry. The weather girl, Susie Q, just told me it's 57 degrees. So let's just be right on.
Oh, it's really going up.
Nice.
That's what I love about Texas. I mean, it really gets warm fast when it does get warm, but it gets cold too.
Yes.
Sure.
Hey, let me ask you
He
this.
says we will need a boat because it's raining. It'll be
all
raining
right.
for like the next, week or so.
How about an ark?
Right. We need an ark.
And
Arkansas.
something that
And
you can.
Arkansas.
Yes. Arkansas, isn't that a state?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
but
need an ark and a saw.
you need something.
Let's create a
You
state
need
called
something.
Arkansas.
You need something that measures in cubits. Have you dealt a lot in your program with near-death experiences?
I love near-death experiences. I think they are absolutely phenomenal and very reaffirming, because I think to me it's just like the one great nod in people's experiences that definitely seems to suggest and show that we do continue on. I mean, we get so tied into the bodies, and the fact that people are being in a death state, which is like no brain activity, no neurological, no physiological activity for extended minutes, where science tells us everything should just be shut down. It should be a flat line. And these people are having robust experiences, seeing things that are happening around them that there's no way they could observe. like just one example. A kid was in the emergency room, and the doctor had a like a Walkman or something, or some battery operated tool, and he dropped it and the battery rolled out, and the kid from this near-death experience was able to watch where the battery went, and the doctor couldn't find it. And when the kid came out and talked to the doctor, he's like, or a nurse or something, he's like, yeah, I saw that battery roll under the cart in the corner there. And sure enough, they looked and they found it there. It's like, I think it's amazing. I think near-death experiences are incredible.
Well, I also believe
I've died a couple times, so.
Oh, wow.
You've had near-death experiences?
Yes.
Oh, I haven't.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Tell us about them. Tell us about them.
Yeah.
Well, in one, I was coming home from the White House. It's a jazz venue in Laguna Beach on PCH. But it's just ironic because a family member ended up in the White House. Anyway, I was coming home from the White House, and I'd driven these kids back to their hotel because their friend was drunk. And I said, don't get in the car with him. So I drove them back to their place. And then I had just passed the White House. It's in Laguna Beach. I played there. And a drunk driver was driving in and out of the Denny's parking lot.
Oh.
And he drove like, I'm going this way. And he drove right in front of me with his lights off.
Oh no.
So there's no reaction time. So my car went into his, it killed its passenger. He was unaware he even had a passenger. My car then spun around to the other side of PCH, facing the other direction. I kicked the radio out of the car. The car caught on fire, and I had essentially a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And an illegal alien, not an alien, an illegal alien who was in the country illegally came and saved me out of the car. The car caught on fire. He said, I knew this was going to happen. I saw this guy doing this for like 20 minutes. I said, he's going to get somebody killed. He pulled me out of the car, resuscitated me, brought me into the Denny's. I hit the windshield. I was picking glass out of my head for about the next 10 years. But when it happened, I ejected out of my body, and I watched everything happen inside the car. And then when he revived me, and I came to in the Denny's, I kept asking, why did he do that? But I essentially, I call it a death experience, but everyone else says near death. But and I died several times.
Wow.
So I can say what happened to me in one instance where I actually talked to a council of people and did not want to come back, but apparently they said I had stuff to do. That's like when I was in Arizona and there was a man who died. He had evacuated his bowels. It was in Lake Havasu. And
That's a nice way of saying it.
pretty much when they do that, you're in the stages of death.
Yeah.
And so his heart had stopped. And this was in Lake Havasu in 2017, I believe it was, the end of 16, beginning of 17. And God told me to get up. I was in a ice cream parlor, which was weird because I worked in an ice cream parlor when I was with my first handler, Drill. I walked outside. There were 3 people standing there. This one person was being held up by another person. And now I could be wrong, but I did not feel any heartbeat. There was no movement. He was slumped over. They'd called an ambulance. And I said, give him to me. And I prayed over him. And then I felt his heart start. I felt his heartbeat. And then I asked the people, what is his name? There were 2 women and a man. And I gave my phone to this one woman and I said, Darrell had texted me and said, honey, can you make me lunch? And I said, tell this person I'm helping someone with a heart attack. But in my head, I said, if I tell him that I'm raising someone from the dead, he's going to be mad. And actually, when I did tell him that, he was mad. But I didn't tell him that then. I waited for another time. Anyway, I said, what is his name? They said his name is Lawrence. When he lifted his head, he was still drooling and his eyes were still closed. And I said, Lawrence, you need to come back. God has things for you to do. Now, if God didn't have anything for him to do, he would have said, thanks so much, Penny, but I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But he came back, and I said, Lawrence, you need to come back. God has things for you to do. And he said, who is this? With his eyes still closed.
Hmm.
And I said, well, this is Penny L.A. Shepard. And he smiled. I don't know, maybe it was the name. Maybe he recognized me from when he was ejected from his body.
Hmm.
And then I went to the wife. I said, Lawrence, they called an ambulance, and they want you to get in the ambulance. He says, I don't want to get in the ambulance, Penny. I know what they're going to do to me. And I was like, shit, what are they going to do to you? Right. So then I reiterated what he said. Everybody heard what he said. They were right there. But I said, he doesn't want to get in the ambulance. He knows what they're going to do to him. And then I tried to give my card to who it later turned out to be his wife, but I think she wanted him dead. I don't think she wanted him alive. And I tried to shake her hand. I tried to put my card in her hand. And then she looked at me and her eyes blinked this black. And her hand was cold like a fish. And I said, oh, okay, then my work here is done.
Yeah.
And I got my phone and I said, thank you. Y'all have a nice day. And then I went home and I made lunch for Darrell. And I didn't tell him about it until later on when we were trapped in the car coming back from California. And when I told him I raised somebody from the dead, he lied. He said, no, you didn't. And his ears were burning off. I said, yes, I did. I knew you were going to get mad.
Wow. That's amazing.
I've never had a near-death experience, but as a child, I remember my parents threatening me with one.
We brought you into this world. We can take you out.
That's right.
It's an incredible phenomena, though, and I think it really is. It's such a powerful statement to the fact that consciousness does continue, because I think that there's for all of us, we all have doubt. We all have these, these shadows of what if, and those statements, I think, just speak so loudly to the fact that, we are not just meat suits that, have an expiration date.
I think there's a difference between being an eternal being in Christ or being an uber super soldier in a cloned body with downloaded memories from a person who actually lived.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's what Hitler promised. That's what Mengele promised. They promised everlasting life through the uber super soldier and the cloning of bodies.
The greatest quote I ever heard, one of the greatest quotes I ever heard, was from some Stoic philosopher who said, the body is the prison for the soul. In other words, it's not meant to be permanent. It holds us for a while. It's like a cocoon. And then we're going to emerge. The soul does go on. And did you ever read the book Heaven is for Real or see the movie?
No,
yes.
Okay, it's a great book and a great movie, and it's about this kid that has a near-death experience, and he comes back, and of course his parents at first, they don't believe that he actually talked to Jesus and everything, and then he said something to his mom like, "What were you going to name her?" And mom says, "What do you mean her?" He says the baby that died right after she was born that you never told me about. And the mother was like, "Oh my God, how did you know that?" In other words, he said, "Well, she's fine. She's in heaven." Oh. So, I mean, and that just blew. She had never mentioned. So, it's real. Yeah. That's why I'm not afraid. I mean, I think we're here to do something. And once we get it done, off we go. So.
Well, the interesting thing too is that there's the debunkers or the detractors from it would say, well, it's a neurochemical chain of reactions with the DMT dump at the end of existence. It's just your body preparing to die. That's where the tunnel comes from, and that's where all this symbolism comes from. And interestingly enough, one of the greatest proponents in recent years has been a neuroscientist who actually had a near-death experience, and he's like, nope. That doesn't explain this. I went through it.
Doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And so the tragedy, I think, of that though is that there are some people that so adamantly want to dispel that. And for what purpose? Because what does it do but inspire hope? And what does it do but inspire you to have trust and be able to move forward with confidence, knowing that the journey's not over, even though the body may fall, that the journey continues. And what a great prospect is that. But still, some people are so determined to paint their paradigm on top of it. And that just,
Right.
it's almost disgusting. It's almost like, why do you need to take that away? Like so many people try to take away.
It almost, I hate to throw this spin on it, but it almost sounds like a Democratic agenda.
Yeah, we're not gonna drag Brent into the political. I mean, that's not his real.
Come on, man.
Where can people catch your wonderful show?
My show is always available on YouTube or podcast. You can go to youtube.com/paranormal portal, or you can check out the podcast on all the major platforms, iHeart, iTunes, etc. Look for Paranormal Portal, and you can go to paranormalportal.net, and that's the home base for all things Paranormal Portal with all the links to social media. And so always available.
Brent, you're the best. I got to tell you, I just love having you on, and we can't wait to do it again. So thank you so much for being a regular contributor to this show. You contribute a lot, and we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys for the blessings to be here. Thank you so much. I love every moment of it.
All right, we'll do it again real soon. Thank you so much. Brent Thomas here, paranormalportal.net, here on the Awake Nation. Now, I know for a fact that our next guest probably was responsible for giving a few people some near-death experiences.
That's for sure.
That, of course, is Alan Lindbloom, Gunnar Lindbloom, here on the Awake Nation. How you doing, Gunnar?
How you guys doing? Good to see you again. Always a pleasure. Yeah, that whole conversation had me thinking of a few things. Unfortunately, when I think about I get asked in interviews a lot, do you have any regrets? And of course I do. I have a lot of regrets, starting with the people that I hurt. Most of the time they were bad guys. More than likely they had it coming. Not always, but yes, if you owed money to a bookie and you're hiding from them, if you get your ass whooped over it, you kind of had it coming. Fake bullies, whatever. But you never want to scar somebody for life. I have a really good story I want to share with you. But yeah. One I regret I have really bad is I got in a fight. I just got out of jail. I was 20 years old. I was living with my grandpa Toko, Grosse Pointe or St. Clair Shores, and got in a fight with this guy who's a bully, big muscle bound guy, heavy, kind of on the heavy set side. He was bullying my friend at a nightclub, Harpo's. You're familiar with Harpo's?
Oh, Harpo, on Harper near Alter Road. It was one of the best, places to see a good concert and have fun.
Yeah. We used to have in high school, they had like Wednesday nights, 50-cent pitchers of beer, and you could get in there with a fake ID, and a bunch of teenagers go in there and get drunk. And one dude was bullying my friend, and I walked up to him. I said, "I don't like bullies, mother effer." And he gets in my face. He's like, "Oh well." So I punch him in the nose, knock him out. He goes down on the ground, blood all over the place. And, it's kind of a funny story because they took my friend Gino shopping earlier in the day. Gino's a big muscle bound tough guy. He said, "Hey, you dress really nice. Why don't you take me shopping, pick out some clothes for me?" So I said, "Okay," because I was known to dress good. I was a drug dealer, so I had money. So he puts this nice new shirt on, a sweater or whatever it was, sweatshirt. And like when I punched this dude in the face, it splattered the dude's face, and the blood was all over. And the first thing Gino said, he goes, "Every time you get in a fight, my clothes get ruined." It was funny. So, and I ended up, the bouncers came over. They knew who I was. They said, "Al, come on, man. You can't do that in here. You got to take it outside." And I'm like, "All right, we'll pick him up. We'll take it outside." And I don't think he's going to want to fight me, this dude. So I get all the way there's like 4 bouncers ushering me out. And here comes, all of a sudden I hear, "I want you, Lindbloom." And I can see this big guy, and he's dragging like 4 bouncers. He's all bloody, and he's come charging for me. We end up going outside, and I end up stomping him really bad. But not like, I literally punched him probably less than 10 times. But they were solid, just like, whang, just boom, right in the face. And I pulverized them, right? So he tried to sue me. And I stomped him out. He got one. I let him hit me first. I said, "You got to hit me first." Everybody pours outside in the street in Harpo's, and they're all watching and want to see this fight. And I said, "I just got out of jail. I'm not going back. So you got to hit me first. And if you do, I can defend myself legally," and blah, 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 blah. So bang, he punches me in the nose, gives me a little bloody nose, and I pound his face in. And ultimately, he tried to sue me for like $300,000 because he couldn't press criminal charges because all the witnesses were on my side. And I told his lawyer, they said, "You're going to go to court. You're not showing up for court." I'm like, "I'm not going to court. Unless they get a subpoena, I'm not going to court." I said, "I didn't do anything. I got 50 witnesses that say he hit me first. The bouncers are going to say he hit me first. The guy's twice my size and he's drunk." She's like, "It's pretty excessive. You did $300,000 worth of damage to him." I'm like, "Yeah, well, when there's a 260-pound drunk dude coming at you and he won't stop, you got to do what you got to do." I never went to court, and that led to a bunch of other stuff. Some of my friends ended up getting charged. The kid said we jumped them, which was not true. But two of my friends that were charged with being jumped them, they had to pay money for lawyers and all that. So years later, I go to prison, and all these years later, and I get out and I see my friend Pat, and he goes, "Dude, you're never gonna believe the story." Now I heard that the dude never recovered. I heard that he was kind of
punch drunk.
Well, after that, he had to go in the hospital for like a month, right? And I guess he had some swelling in the brain, so they cut a hole in his brain and released it. And he was just, so that people were saying, "Dude, Norbert, he's not the same, man. Like whatever you did, like he's not the same person anymore." And I'm like, he'd be all right. He probably just got humbled, got his ass. So then years later, I don't know, people were saying that, but I saw him in the gym now and then, and he just give me a dirty look. So then years later, my friend Pat, I see him when I get out of prison. He's like, "You never believe this, man. I was dating this girl. She had some mental problems, so she ended up going to the mental institution down in Ypsilanti." He's like, I went to go see her one day, and I'm looking at this guy, and he's like looking at me, and he says, "Man, you look familiar. Where are you from?" And he's like, "I know who you are. You're Al's friend, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, you were there the night Al beat my ass. That's the reason I'm here." So according to this dude, that he's in a mental institution because of me, which would be horrible if that's true. Horrible. I just want to hope that it's not true, and that my friend.
Oh, we just lost your sound.
We lost your sound. We can't hear you. Okay, he doesn't realize that sound. I'm gonna text him.
We also have an echo. Well, send me an echo. Are you
All right, I'm gonna kick him.
Okay, go ahead.
Back.
All right.
And is the echo gone?
Yeah. When he was, there was an echo when he was on. You were echoing, I was echoing, and he was muted.
Yeah, something weird happened. I did want to make an announcement that tomorrow, director David Tice, I just got a confirmation, he will be on the show, and he's going to be talking about his Grid Down Power Up film. And Alan is back. I'm not going to add him to the stage.
I don't know what happened there, but sorry. I'm sorry.
You just lost your sound. It was in the middle of a great story. You were saying you hoped that the guy was not in a mental institution.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. I was basically, you get regrets, and I just hope that the guy, it's not true, that he's living a normal, good life, his best life. You'd hate to think that something you did like that has long-term repercussions on somebody mentally, physically, whatever. Those are the things I regret. But I got another story that's going to be like, it is life and death, and it's a great story. And it started off with my cousin out in the suburbs was selling crack in Sterling Heights, which is just crazy because, he was like a 19-year-old kid, and he calls me one day and he's trying to rock up an ounce of cocaine. He doesn't know how to do it, and he lost it. And I said, "What are you doing trying to rock up an ounce of cocaine?" He's like, "I got these people buying it." I'm like, "Out in the suburbs?" He's like, "Yeah, man, it's crackheads. They come every day." So I go out there and I help him re-rock it, and I start saying, "Hey, how much you paying?" He's like, $1,100 for rock or cocaine. I'm like, "Dude, I'll give you, an ounce for $900 or whatever it was." I'd make a couple $100, about $300-400. So I was going down in the hood, buying crack cocaine from this dude, like an ounce every day or two, and selling it to my cousin. And one day, one day I was pulling up and I see it's a black dude. His name is Lorenzo, and his brother Meeter with him. And they're in front of some house down by the corner of the block. This is in the ghetto. This is on Glenwood Street in the ghetto of Detroit. Very, very, very dangerous neighborhood. And I'm out of place. Young white kid, got a flashy car, Mustang. I pull up, jump out, and this guy says, "Hey, take your bitch ass back across the street, white boy." I said, "Relax, man. Lowe's my boy." And he's like, "I don't give a F. You take your butt." Kind of a stocky black dude. He starts coming toward me. I said, "Take your bitch ass back." I said, "Relax, man." But he starts getting tough. He goes walking over with a bottle. He's circling around me. He's gonna hit me with this bottle. And his boy Lorenzo is this big black dude with a googly eye. Looks like Debo from Friday. He says, "Hey, listen, man. That white boy ain't the one. He's gonna put you in the EMS. I'm telling you, he ain't the one." And these guys, "Yeah, we're gonna see." So he tries to snatch this bottle off me. It hits me in the collarbone, bounces off, and then breaks in the street. When I come back, bang! I hit him. One shot, knock him out. Right, knock him unconscious. He had two friends there. They're like, "Whoa!" Like, white boy just knocked him out. I should have left it at that, but I got on top of him. I pounded him a little bit, bloodied him up, and then I left. Well, the next day I go to Lowe's house. He's in there eating dinner. His friend Pat comes out, says, "You shouldn't have done that to that dude." I said, "Well, why?" I'm not punk. He's like, "Yeah, but he's crazy. We don't deal with them. We don't even sell him dope. We don't know he's crazy." I said, "Yeah, well, whatever, man." Around that second, I'm leaning against the back of my car, and all of a sudden I feel something smash into the back of my head. Bang! And I'm like, it shocks you because I'm sitting in the street. I got no shirt on. It's summertime. It's like 90-degree night. It's just starting to get dark. I'm just sitting there in loafers, and all of a sudden, bang, something hits me in the back of the head. And I turn around to see what the hell this hit me. And this guy's got a baseball bat and he swings it full on and cracks me in the forehead. So I got a big old scar on my forehead right there. And then it spun me against my car. I turned around, and in my mind, this guy was trying to kill me. So I'm thinking, this guy's legit trying to kill me, man. So I have no choice. I have to kill him. And that's what was going through my mind. So I lunged forward and tackle him with my hands around his throat. And I start I'm choking him as hard as I can, and I worked out. I was kind of a muscle head. I was probably 200 pounds ripped up, and I maybe a little bigger. And I'm just choking him with all my might, just and I'm smashing his head off the concrete. You want to kill? I kept saying, you trying to kill me? Bang, bang. And the blood is squirting out of his nose now. He's choking. He knows he's dying. He knows that he messed up, that I'm trying to kill him, and I'm probably going to kill him. And so he's just, he can't fight at this point. I've choked off his blood to the brain and his. And then anyways, all of a sudden, one of his boys, like 2 or 3 of his boys come running up, and they start kicking me and punching me. Let him go, let him go, let him go. I don't let him go. I just keep smashing him. One of them stabs me in the upper stomach, chest, but he came because I was on my hands and knees on top of him. So the guy ran up and stuck me from the side. So the blade didn't go in; it went sideways. So it just nicked the lung. It didn't do. But I don't know any of this. I thought he punched me. And one hits me with a bottle, bang, I still don't let go. I'm trying to kill this guy. And then all of a sudden one comes running up with a 2x4. Yeah, I know. And then one of them runs up with a 2x4, at the corner of my eyes. I'm choking this guy, smashing him. He's unconscious now. I kind of see the guy coming with the 2x4. So as he's coming down with it, I lunge forward and it comes across the back of my leg and it ends up tearing my hamstring really bad. But I jumped up and I run right out of my shoes. And then I'm running through the ghetto, through backyards, jumping fences. They chased me for a block, but then I lost them. But I mean, I'm fast and running for my life. So, you know what I'm saying? When you're running for your life, you're not playing around. I was actually hurdling fences like an Olympic hurdler. I wasn't touching them. I'm running and just jumping over them. I'd never done that before in my life. But at that moment, I was able to do it because I was. Yeah. And then I'm going through backyards where there's pit bulls and Rottweilers, and they're all chasing and biting at me. And then a lot of the houses were vacant and abandoned, so there's all this weeds and grass. And so I run a few blocks, and I end up trying to catch my breath, hiding behind some garage, an abandoned house garage. It's all weeds and garbage and stuff. Right. And I'm laying there trying to catch my breath, and I can't believe it. I'm kind of in shock, and I'm thinking to myself, I thought about a dude I knew. His name is Donnie Wasman. He was killed a couple months before that. Somebody killed him. He was at a party, got in a fight. Somebody took a big pot plant and smashed it over his head. And then he dragged himself into a vacant lot next door, and he died. And they just left him there. And so I remember thinking to myself, when we had his funeral, I was like, I wonder what was going through his mind, when he was dying.
So not a near-death experience, but a real death experience.
Yeah, exactly. But I was trying to think about what was he going through. And then to flash forward a month or two, whatever it was. Now I'm the guy, and I looked down. I was covered in blood because the head wound bleeds really bad. So I split my head open, and I was bleeding all over the place. But then I looked down at my chest, and I saw there's a big cut. And I'm what is that from? I didn't. How would I cut myself? And then I look, and I stuck my finger in it, and I saw it was a deep hole. And I stuck my finger, and that's when I got kind of lightheaded, and I was like, oh, I've been stabbed. And I said to myself, I'm not dying. I'm not going to stay. I don't want my girlfriend to get the phone call where they say we found your boyfriend in the hood, dead, whatever. I got to live. So I jumped up and I jumped through the alley, went through another backyard, went another block over, and I start walking down the block, and I'm covered in blood. I got no shoes on, no shirt on. It's about dark now. It's almost completely dark. And I'm walking down the street, and I'm super thirsty because it was a hot night, and I just ran 5 blocks, and I'm losing all this blood. So I look over at a house, and I remember this house very distinctly. It was a green and white house, green awning, and a green chair on the porch, vacant lot next door. And there's a reason I'm giving you a description. And I saw a faucet on the side of the house. So I'm like, I'm thirsty. I'm going to go get something to drink, some water out of that faucet. So I walk over, and I'm on the side of the house, kneeling down, trying to get some water out. And the water won't come out. It's not working. So I'm like, what the hell? All of a sudden I hear some lady yelling and screaming at me, some black woman from across the street going, hey, get away from my house. Get away from my house. What you doing? What are you doing? And I said, hey, I'm sorry, ma'am. I just wanted some water, And she comes walking up. And she goes, oh, my God, baby, what happened to you? She said, you get in a car accident. I said, no, I got jumped.
Like the bat accident.
Yeah, a bad accident, really, a bad accident. So she says, I said, I got jumped. She's like, come on, let me help you. I said, can I have a glass of water? She says, yeah. Puts me up on the porch, sit down, I'll get you some water. She comes outside with a white towel, like clean, crisp white towel. This is in the hood, too. This is the
Right.
ghetto.
You're like, I don't want your good towel. I'm going to bleed all
Yeah,
over it.
she says, hold that over your head because I had so much blood leaking. It was just leaking out, pouring out, and all over me. So I put the towel over my head. I drank a glass of water. I said, can I have another glass of water? She says, yeah. She comes back, hands me the glass of water. I drink about half of it, and that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember is the EMS is there. I don't know how long they took. It could have been an
That
hour.
would be called a near-death experience, Alan.
Yeah, I know. So this is where it gets really crazy, though. So the EMS comes and they said, we got to strap you down. And I said, no, I don't want to be strapped down. They're like, well, you've had major head trauma. You need to be strapped down, secure your neck and down. I said, I'm not strapping down. I don't want to be strapped. I don't even know why. To this day, I'm like, I still don't know why. I didn't like the idea of being strapped down. So I said, I'll ride sitting up. They're like, all right, man. So they take me to the hospital. The surgeon, not a surgeon, an ER doctor named Dr. Wheaton. I still remember his name because I thanked him after. He stitches me up, says, you got lucky with the lung. You don't need stitches. It's fine. Everything's fine there. I have to do plastic surgery on your head. If we don't, you're going to have a dent in your head and maybe your eye's going to sag. He's like, I'm not certified to do that. I'm just an ER doctor. But if you sign a waiver, I'll do it. It's pretty easy. I got to sew the muscle and then sew the skin. Shouldn't be a problem. I said, yeah, man, go ahead. I signed the thing. He stitches me up. He does a great job. A couple days later, I call him and said, can I take you out to dinner? He's like, no, I'm working a 24-hour shift. Well, you can take me out to the cafeteria. And I said, all right, what time? And I take him. I thanked him. And he was like, what's a good looking guy like you doing in the hood? I said, I'm a drug dealer. I'm not. He's like, man, you need to get your life together and start acting right, man. You got all this potential. You seem like a smart guy. What the hell are you doing?
You're lucky you didn't sew your eye permanently like open, so it'd be like geeky looking.
Like, what up? But
Right.
so this is where it gets the craziest part about
looking like what's that guy's name? Adam Schiff.
Right? So the craziest part about this story is I wanted to go thank that woman for helping me. So I went back there.
Woman.
Yeah. So another thing is, by the way, I left my keys in my car that night. So the dudes came back and busted the back window and we're going to pour gas in it and let it on fire. But my boy Lorenzo came out there and ran him off with a gun. He basically said, and they're like, why are you sticking up for that white boy? Who did da da da? He's like, that white boy's my boy. And I'm telling you, get off his car or else I'm going to pop your ass. So they left. And so then they were driving around looking for me. At one point, when I was on the side of the garage breathing, I saw my car go by. I'm like, oh my God, they got my car and they're looking for me. They're trying to find me. They're going to kill me.
Your car driving away without you in it. That's just
my car goes by. I couldn't believe it. I hear the kickers about the system going boom, boom, boom. I look and it's my car. So I go back to find this woman a few days later. And this is the craziest part. I can't find that house. It's nowhere to be found. I can't. Wow. I think she was an angel. Honestly, I think she was an angel. I can't explain it. I went up and down every block for like 10 blocks. I know I didn't go 10 blocks. I honestly probably only went 3 or 4 blocks, 5 at the most, 6 at the most. Because it was adrenaline. I'm jumping fences. I'm running. But I went up and down every block. Like, must have gone up and down them 8, 10 times. And I know the house. It's got a vacant lot. The white and green house, little small sided house with a green awning. I mean, I know what it looks like. I don't know. It was not there. It was crazy. And then the ending of the story doesn't end great. That's the good part of it. But a couple of weeks later, I'm back in the neighborhood. I'm a drug dealer, so I sold weed to I have guys selling weed for me down there, and then I'm still buying coke and selling it to my cousin. And all of a sudden, I pull up at a stop sign in a subdivision in the hood. This is ghetto, and this gold flake Cadillac, old school big Cadillac, pulls up and blocks me in. And the guy that had hit me with the bat that I had choked out and all that, that's the same guy that I beat up the day before. He's in the car and he's looking at me and he goes, "What's up, mother effer? You think this is over? You think this is over?" And I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna end this right now. So he don't know. So I said, "Nah, man, I don't want no problems," but I'm reaching for my gun. My gun's up under the dash in my Mustang. It's hidden really well. I kind of grab it. I said, "Nah, man, I don't want no problem." All of a sudden, I fling the door open and I come running up on this guy. And then he tells his boy, "Go, go, 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 go." I got a pistol and I just dump on it. Boom, 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 boom. I'm running as it's pulling up. I'm running next to the car. Pop, 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 pop. I was like, we're gonna end this for now. And did I hit him? Don't know. Did he live? Did he die? Don't know. Never knew. But that's how the story ended. It wasn't. Might have been life or death for him too. But all over nothing. You know what I'm saying? All over nothing.
Yes, that's something that you can tell people how futile that life is.
Totally futile. Totally. So what was the point of that? You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I've had a. This is how I know God is real. One time I was back in that same neighborhood selling dope again. It's another same process for my cousin, ounces of coke. And I've been dealing with these black dudes for like 6 months. I liked them. They're good dudes. You know, I didn't know them that well, but they're you know, we were selling drugs together. And the guy looked like Grant Hill, the basketball player. When I tell the story, I just give you an idea. He was a light-skinned guy, kind of tall. And he gets in the car one day and he says, I need $850. And I'm like, well, I've been playing 7. I'm not paying him $850. He's like, I need $850. I said, I pay 7. I'll give you $750, but that's it. And I got 5 different guys I can go to, you know, around the corner or whatever. He's like, he thinks about it. He's like, all right, I'll go inside. Now they had a crack house across the street, you know, and they went in. He went in. So I got to weigh it up. I'll be back in a minute. So I looked over and to see dudes in the windows looking at me. Now they know I carry a gun. I always carry a gun like John Wayne, like right out my waistline. So it's right there. So when they're dealing with me, the gun is right there, you know. And so all of a sudden I'm watching these dudes across the street and they're looking, and the guy's taking a while. So I start my car and I back it up so I'm not boxed in. I put it in neutral in case I got to take off. I start sensing something right. So I finally beat the horn after like 20 minutes. Beep, and he comes. He's like, all right, 1 second. He comes out, gets in the car. He's like, man, I need 800. I said, bro, I'm not paying $800 for an ounce of cane, man. I'm not doing it. I'll go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? At that moment, again, it was summertime or warm enough to where my window was down. And I'm looking at him in the passenger seat. And all of a sudden, I feel something against the back of my head. And I hear, don't move, mother effer. Now, my initial reaction was, like it's a gotcha joke. Like, gotcha. You know what I'm saying? Just messing with you, you know? And then I heard, don't move, mother effer. And I feel that. And I turn to look. And I see the barrel of the gun. And he's got his hand on and semi-automatic, and he goes to rack around in the chamber and goes, and it jams. I see it. It's right there. And he goes, and it jams. So in a blink of an eye, this fast, I grabbed his hand with the gun and twist it really hard and pull my gun. And I'm looking to shoot this guy because I don't know if he's got a gun. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if it's like they're both. Yeah. So I'm pulling the gun, but I'm looking at dude, and the guy's eyes get big. He dives out of the car. He don't have a gun. So I stick the gun up where I think his face would be. Boom! Pull the trigger. Hand goes limp. Gun drops in the back seat because I'm twisting. He's trying to pull his hand out, but I got him. And I bang! And the gun goes limp and falls in the back seat. I throw the car in gear, peel off. Get about 2-3 houses. I hear one shot. Pow! And now I'm mad because they were trying to rob me. So I swing up in a driveway and I take aim. And there's like 3 or 4 of them. And the one dude that who had the gun, who I shot at, I don't know if I hit him, he's on the ground, crawling behind the car. And the other dudes are kind of like behind cars too. And I just take aim and I'm like, bang, 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 shooting at these guys, trying to get them. And they learned a lesson. You're like, you know, you don't do stuff like this. And but this just goes to show you how God had a plan for me. Like that gun jam. What are the odds that the gun are going to jam?
Not too good. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah. And another time, I'll tell you one more good one. When I was robbing a dude who was a Chaldean guy, which is an Arab. You know what Chaldeans are. You're from Detroit. But he was a heroin dealer, and we were dealing pretty big heavyweight. And me and him got in an argument over who had the better car. And he was kind of cocky. He got tough with me. And I'm like, I don't like this dude. I'm going to rob him. That's just how stupid we were. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would he argue over who had a better car? It's just dumb. And so I said, I don't like him. He thinks he's tough. I want to beat his ass, but screw it. I'll just rob him. You know what I'm saying? So I tell him I need a quarter kilo of heroin. It's $20,000. And he meets me in the hood at Coney Island in the parking lot. We're in the back. I get out, and I got a leather jacket on like this, and so does he. And I take the quarter kilo and I throw it in the back, and I give him $20,000, and he puts it in his inside pocket. And we're talking a little bit. And as soon as he's like puts the money in his pocket, I grabbed the coat and pulled the pistol out. I said, give me the jacket, mother effer. This will be your last day. You can make it up. Don't make this your last day. He's like, you serious, man? Are you serious? I said, dead serious, bro. He's like, you know, it's over for me and you. This can end 2 ways. And so he's like, all right, man. So he starts pulling out of his coat. When he starts pulling out the coat, he somehow pulls a pistol out from behind him, you know what I'm saying, out of his waistband. But he hands me the coat, I grab the coat, and I'm thinking I'm good, and I go to kind of take the coat and throw it in the back of my Jeep. And all of a sudden, as he's raising his hand up with the gun, he starts firing. But he's so anxious to start shooting, he shoots the ground, my shin, and the third shot hits in my leather coat pocket. And then the bullet wraps around and ends up in the other pocket because I found it a few days later. I was like, what the heck is that in my pocket? This weird like lump in my pockets. I'm trying to figure it out and I can't get it. And eventually I cut it out and it's the bullet. And then I see where it went in. And so it went in this side and wrapped around through the coat and ended up another. It must have been a 22 or 25 or something like that. But anyways, he's like pop, 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 pop as he raises the gun. Pop, 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 pop. On the third shot jam, or ground, shin, jacket, and fourth shot, click, it jam. By the time he gets up to my chest with it, it's jammed. I'm so caught off guard that I was frozen. He had me. He totally had me. I was like, I got a gun on him, and he's pop, 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 and then all of a sudden when his gun jammed, he goes like this, and it don't work, and I start shooting at him, boom, 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 and he runs away. But I mean, talk about life and death, man. You know what I'm saying? It's so close. This 1 second away, one more bullet, and he gets me. I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? Just goes to show you that God had a purpose for me, and maybe it's
really, honest to God, your life, you deserve the television show, you deserve the movie, you deserve.
It's a miracle you're here to talk.
My God, you live more episodes than Law and Order.
Right?
Yeah, that's what Armando Sante said when I was at his house for 6 days, man. And there were times where I'd tell these stories like this for 2 hours straight. And he's just listening, smoking a cigar. We're in his studio, and he's just like listening. And at one point, he literally said, "My God, it's a miracle you're alive, Gunner." And I said, "I know." And when he said that, I took my cross. I had my cross out, and I said, "I know." And I kissed my cross. I said, "It is a miracle that I'm alive." I said, "It's absolutely a miracle." And like, these are just some of the stories. Obviously, these are kind of highlight ones of the dangerous ones where I almost died. But I had lots of incidents like this and tons of this crazy stuff.
Alan, how is the series going?
So the series is, I can't talk about it really.
Okay.
All I can talk about is that for now, they're making a documentary on me, my life, these stories. That documentary is going to propel interest in the scripted series that we're making. So it's all I can say. So the scripted series is kind of like on hold to a degree. They want to do this documentary first, and it's a big budget documentary, not huge, but it's big. You know what I'm saying? It's high end. The people involved are very professional. They've had Netflix series, they've had docs. That's how it's going. So it's gonna kind of chronicle my life. And some of these stories, and then some of it'll be interesting like that, the street stuff and gangster stuff and associated with the mafia and all that.
And then tell us where people can, because we're encroaching the end of the hour. Yeah. Where can people buy your gear, right? Well, which is behind you, and then also your books.
So my gear is Our Thing Apparel at ourthingapparel.com. We sell hats, jackets, hoodies, t-shirts, track suits, kind of throwback track suits. They're all kind of old school. They'll have the leathers don't have your city on it. They just have our logo like this one, but the back is done too. But the track suits and everything else will have your city. So it's the hoodie, t-shirt, jacket, track suit, whatever. It'll say your city, our thing, have our logo in the middle. But there's different designs too. Like we have like 12 different designs, and then you'll have your city, our thing in the bottom, and the backs are done too. So the front and back of everything is done, and it'll say your city, our thing. So that's that, ourthingapparel.com, or you just really go to my website at gunnerdetroit.com, GUNNER Detroit.com, and you can check out. There's links to my merch, links to my books, my books To Be a King, Volume 1 and 2. 5-star reviews. People are comparing them to The Godfather. You hear a lot of people in the
I think it's better than The Godfather.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that. If you read the reviews, there's a lot of people saying this is better than The Godfather, or this is the greatest mafia story that's ever been told. And it's not my life, just for the record. My life is way bigger, way more grandiose than my wife's life ever was. Way bigger. And I have a couple of new books coming out this year you guys are going to love. One's called The Snowman Chronicles. It's about 2 huge cocaine smugglers, their whole evolution. And it's got a good ending kind of twist, even a Christian lean at the end. The guy goes to prison for 15 years and he gives his life to Christ, and he ends up writing a book about his story. And then he gets out, and there's this crazy twist to the ending. His boy had been hiding for 15 years. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His boy been saving him all this money. He's been on the lam, and he ends up donating all this money to this Christian charity in the main character's name, but he don't know it. And the FBI show up, and they're like, "What are you doing? Where'd all this money come from?" He said, because he had to acquiesce $580 million worth of cash and assets to only get 15 years. They wanted to give him life, but he said, "I'll give you $500 million worth of cash and assets for a plea agreement." So they cop him down. So that story. Wow. Yeah, and then it's a big story. Hollywood's involved, a bunch of politicians are involved, hedge fund managers involved. There's just massive bureaucrats and politicians around the world. Mafia is involved. And then the other book is a political thriller called Blindside 2030, which takes place in the year 2030 when China basically makes a move on America. They attack us and with the economic.
Sounds like that's like happening like right now.
Yeah. You'll see. It's very much like that. So there's that. So anyway,
so Alan. Thank you,
Alan,
thank you very much for being on our show, for always being entertaining and forthright, and just telling it like it is. We love you.
Yeah, you are fantastic.
You're on every 2 weeks.
You turned your life around, and yet you got to. I think I'm thinking of a television dramatic series, almost like The Equalizer, but I mean,
we shall see.
So keep going, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks. All right.
2 weeks.
Yep. You guys have a great couple of weeks. God bless you.
Thank you, Alan.
God bless you too. Thank you, Alan Gunnar Lindbloom here on the Awake Nation.
Greatest storyteller.
He's fantastic. I mean, he's been to more. I mean, if I get out of bed, go to the kitchen, grab a cup of coffee, do the show, take a nap, go to bed. That's my day. He's out taking names and taking names. What can I say? Got a little refreshing story for you today. This is going to make everybody happy to close the show today. Reporters were witness to a touching sight today. Did you hear about this? As a gracious and tearful Donald Trump ran down the road with open arms and welcomed back his prodigal Ron DeSantis, who just endorsed Trump in the primaries. "Quick, bring the best, most beautiful, tremendous robe and put it on him," said Trump to his aides and attendants. "Put a ring on his finger and high-heeled sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. We'll make big, beautiful McDonald's hamburgers out of this guy." Sources say he then embraced and kissed the repentant DeSantis. Other Trump surrogates, however, were not pleased with Trump's benevolent gesture, including Rudy Giuliani, who refused to go in and join the party. He said, "Look, I got to tell you, Mr. Trump, all these years I've been slaving for you. I was never disloyal," said the former New York mayor. "Yet you never gave me a big McDonald's feast. But when DeSantis, who squandered $200 million in campaign funds, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. What gives?" Sources say Trump then scolded his former attorney, saying, "This son of mine was dead, and boy, was he so dead. I mean, really, really, really dead. Believe me, he was really, really dead. But now he's alive again. He was lost and is found. He was meatball, but now he's Ron. He was harmonious, but now he's DeSantis once again. So fantastic, really." At publishing time, Trump had kicked out DeSantis again. That, of course, is from the Babylon Bee. I want to remind you to join us by 6 p.m. evening tonight and every night, Monday through Friday, for a newscast, 30-minute newscast posted on our YouTube channel, The Awake Nation News on YouTube. You can also watch it at our website, theawakenation.com. And tomorrow, I didn't get to this today, but we'll do it tomorrow. I'll tell you how you can get the report on Biden being dead. We have the facts in a government document. Well, I didn't get it's a teaser. You got to join us tomorrow because we're going to have David Tice.
Yes. David Tice from Grid Down. It's Grid Down Power Up.
All right. So that's tomorrow. Join us from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern on our Rumble channel, the David Zublick channel, and once again at our website, theawakenation.com. That's going to do it for today's edition. We appreciate you watching and listening. We are out of time. We're out of here. Zublick out.
Shepard out.
Goodbye for now from the Awake Nation with co-host David Zublick, Penielle Shepard, and Heather Day. We invite you to watch us live on Rumble at the David Zublick channel and at theawakenation.com. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Join us for the Awake Nation News, a 30-minute quick shot of truth with with a shot of espresso, 8 a.m. to 8:30 Central, 9 a.m. to 9:30 Eastern, followed by 5 sets of 30-minute interviews with influencers who defy the mainstream narrative. The Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. Please join us on YouTube at The Awake Nation News for an additional 30 minutes of breaking news, posting Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of The Awake Nation, with co-hosts David Zublick, Penny L.A. Shepard, and Heather Day, we humbly thank our Dark Outpost and Awake Nation family. We thank you for watching The Awake Nation and ask you to join us again each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah. Ship doo 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 doo. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah.